just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. And to say I'm excited is an understatement. Matter of fact, we just sat here speaking for an hour about Origin before Origin chat on the show. And that is not even a lie. We literally just sat here for an hour talking Origin. So we're going to start, that's how pumped we are. We couldn't, as soon as we walked in the door, I was like, what about those blue selections? What about those Queensland selections? But I've got the great Guru. How you going, brother?
Good, mate. I'm already sick of talking about Origin with you. It's been an innings this morning, so, mate, there's just no better time of the year, is there?
Oh, my. It's honestly Christmas for footy fans. Right. It is Christmas for footy fans. And also, there are some huge outs. I thought, to be completely honest, I thought the Blues selections were going to be a bit boring-ish. I thought, stick with the same team, that a record win. How wrong I was. But before we get to that, Origin Game 1, myself, Gurino, also Timmy, and Hello Sport will be doing a live show at the Locker Room Hotel. At the Locker Room Hotel, it'll be from 5 p.m. From 5 p.m. at the Locker Room Hotel, a live show before Origin. Make sure to get there. Now, it's a free show, completely free, but make sure to get there early so you can get a seat in the section. It's quite a big section, but we think it'll fill out quite quickly. You'll still, even if that fills out, there's a whole grass area around it. So regardless, you'll be able to watch the show. We've made sure that, unless fucking 10,000 people rock up, which I highly doubt, you'll be able to watch the show. So get down, enjoy the celebration with us, a live show. It'll be shown just like this. We'll be previewing the game only hours before kickoff. It's incredible. I'm super excited. That is the Locker Room Hotel, Game 1 from 5 p.m. Be there. We'll be giving stuff away. We might even have a big announcement as well coming, that you should be there to... I'll leave it at that. Anyway... Locker Room Hotel, as you come off the train, it's to your right. It's a great establishment. Perfect for a few beers before you go into Origin. It's like 80 metres from the stadium. Literally have a couple beers, then you walk across just before kickoff. We've also got a huge announcement coming next Monday. Next Monday, 6 p.m. Monday, 6 p.m. We may even do it Sunday, 6 p.m., but just keep your eyes peeled for a huge announcement. We're also in every single Celebrations, Bottle-O Porters Liquor and IGA Plus Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. And on top of that, Bloke Beer in Bottle-O across the entirety of New South Wales is $52. That is right. Across the entirety of New South Wales, Bloke Beer is $52. Now, let me try to get up the exact price, because I'm pretty sure it's 50. It could be 52. Yes, $52. $52 for a whole case.
Steal.
That is a steal. We've never had it that cheap, I'm pretty sure. So $52 in every single Bottle-O in New South Wales. So get in there, get a great deal. That'll be for the next 2 weeks. $52, an absolute steal. Now, a couple bottle shops we've got as well. Also, we're in every single Celebration Superstore in Queensland. So make sure to get in. If you can't get to any of those stores, go to our store locator on our website. You put in your postcode. It'll show you the closest stockers to you. We're also in the Coop. The Coop in, I think it's in, not Bondi, Coogee maybe? Eastern suburbs, the Coop. We're in the Coop. Got a message off a bloke saying, give us a shout out. We're now stocked here. So the Coop.
I think that's in Bronte.
It's in Bronte. We're at the Coop in Bronte. How good. And here, I'll get to the 12 stores a bit later, because let's get straight into it, Wow. Okay, so we've just got some breaking news of a confirmed Blues side. I will get that up and we will discuss it. Confirmed Blues side from New South Wales. So not even the squad. This is the side confirmed. Wow. So the confirmed side for the Blues is James Tedesco at 1, Toa at 2, Staggs at 3, Whiten at 4, Tupou at 5, Luai at 6, Cleary at 7, Haas at 8, Cook at 9, Bolo at 10, Murray at 11, Sims at 12, Yo at 13, Crichton at 14. Liam Martin at 15, Campbell Gillard 16, 17 Ryan Madison, and 18 is Nico Hines. 19 is Tyson Frizzell, Saifidi, Suwali, and Coruscant make up the rest of the extended squad. Now, to be fair, though, there could be changes before the match. Now, this could be Freddie trying to throw a curveball and putting Crichton at 14, but then bringing in Hines. I doubt it, though. I think this may be the team he's going with. Guru, speak to me. What stands out to you there?
Yeah, obviously Jack White, we knew he'd be in the team somewhere, one of Freddie's boys. I thought, reading that team sheet last night, he would definitely be in the 14 jersey. Mate, picking Stephen Crichton and playing him as a 14, mate, I'm interested to hear your take. It just makes no sense to me. I don't understand that selection at all. How do you get, like, when you get Stephen Crichton into the game, do you move Jack into the middle? How do you think it's going to play out?
Mate, I honestly don't know. Because before the selection, and I was speaking to Hello Sport, and I think we may have spoken about it as well, I was saying Freddie Fittler's loyalty to Whiten will put him in that starting side.
Yep.
And everyone, not everyone, but there were a lot of people in the comments section, I think actually, matter of fact, I want to go back to it because someone was like, someone in the YouTube comments section said, if Brad Fittler picks Whiten at centre, I'll buy 1,000 cases of Bloke and a bar beer.
I saw that, actually.
Can you go back to the YouTube and check that? And so, huge call by me. Now, I did start to get a little bit nervous when Addo Carr and Trbojevic weren't selected in the squad because I was like, okay, well, that loyalty, it seems to be form and form alone, even though I think that, anyway, we'll get to those two players. So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe Freddie Fittler is a lot more ruthless than I thought. But it seems that Freddie has gone, nope. Whiten, I like him at centre. Crichton at 14. If I'm being honest, I kind of feel if you've got Crichton and Staggs in the squad, you start them at centre. So the only thing I can think of is, as you said, he brings Crichton on to the centres, moves Whiten into the middle, and the reason why he's put Crichton on the bench, because if you add Crichton and Whiten, how good?
Syndicated 6 days ago. I'll buy 1,000 cases of Bloke if Whiten gets picked in the centres. With
how many likes does it have?
38 likes on YouTube.
He's lucky they're going for $52 just
$52 at the bottle. You better get in there, bro. Better get in there, start buying. And I want to see the receipts, motherfucker. Anyway, good banter. But so I think what Freddie is thinking is this: if one of my halves go down, we've got Whiten to take that 6 role. 7, he could play at a pinch if he has to, or Luai could play 7 in a pinch. Plus, Whiten can cover in the back row, whereas Crichton, you bring him on, he can also cover fullback, wing, or centre, and you've essentially got your whole back line covered with those 2 players. You could make the argument that Hines can't cover the wing, and he may not be able to play centre. So maybe he's looked at HIA kind of stuff as well, because Hines has been put at 18. So foul play, if Cleary gets foul play head height or whatever, he can bring him into... Pretty sure if he gets foul played, you can bring your 18 in.
I believe so, yeah.
So maybe that's what he's covering, but I have to say, I'm stoked for Crichton, though. I'm stoked for Crichton. But it is... Do you think it's the right call?
I don't, personally. I would have had... I thought he was picking Stephen Crichton because of his combinations with the Penrith boys. I think that Crichton is a guy that... I would argue he came up with a top 5 grand final play ever last year. Like, you look at... It'd be Kyle Felt's try. It'd be Joey down the short side. I don't think Stephen Crichton's intercept to win that grand finals that far behind. He's delivered on the big stages. He can play a number of positions, no doubt about it. But in my mind, I would have thought having Jack on the bench who can come on and play multiple roles, he would have been better to have there to then bring in. And as you said, there might be team changes, but surely if he's not going to run with Jack in the starting team, we'll be able to see it during the week. It just makes it has to be Jack at centre now.
That's very true.
They cannot move that. And I don't know. I can't see Freddie making a late change and pulling Crichton out of his debut to put Nico Hines there either. I just don't think he'll do that.
Okay.
So I think this is how they run. Yeah, I didn't see it coming. It doesn't make much sense to me. I understand where you're coming from, with the HIAs and everything, but fuck, it's a deep explanation.
That's not really that's not my opinion. Yeah. It's just where I think Freddie may be coming from. You have to go
that deep for the reasoning.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a red flag to me.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Now, Whiten has played centre before, and he didn't go that great at centre. To be fair, though, he has played good footy in Origin. He played well the year before. His ball running has always been good. Even in the games where defensively he struggled a little bit, his meters run were outstanding. So I think it was only 2 games that he played in centre. It's probably too small of a sample size to say whether he will be good at centre or won't be good at centre. I think that Whiten will actually be much better at centre this time than he was last time because he's going to know what to expect. and he's going to have more time to maybe prepare and get his head around it because he's got that experience. He can go back and look at certain things he got wrong and he got right. But it is surprising. Like, even Stephen Crichton, you know, he's probably... I mean, I know he played off the bench and he scored a try, you know, the first game of that year. Remember that when he came on the field, literally ran and scored a try? But outside of that, he hasn't played much bench. So for him, it's going to be a very foreign role to play off the bench like that. Very hard to get into a game in centre when you're coming off the bench.
And mate, I would obviously haven't played that many games of State of Origin myself, but I would imagine sitting on the bench for 50, 60 minutes, fuck, I'd be a nervous wreck as a centre coming into the game like that. I mean, like, obviously what he has done, Freddie, is he's picked Brian Toto. He will play right wing. That's where he's playing at Clubland at the moment. Staggs will play right. Then he has picked two left side players in Jack Whiten and Tupu. Do you think that's played a role in his selections?
Yeah, maybe.
Because, I mean, if you do start Stephen Crichton, you have to move him from the side that he's on at the moment to the other, or you have to move Staggs. I wouldn't be moving Staggs on debut. At least Crichton has played both sides. I don't know. Maybe it's just a continuity thing. Like, I was sitting here last week saying to you, personally, I would have gone with Addo-Carr and Staggs on the right. So you would have picked Addo-Carr on the wrong side, and then the Penrith boys moved them from the right to the left. Maybe he just doesn't want to change them up that much.
Yeah, maybe. What do you reckon, Matty?
Yeah, it's a. I didn't expect it, but I think Freddie's always been bullish on his 14 has to cover a few positions, and like I think he, you know, we saw the Friday night game where there was. So not the Friday night game. There was a game where there was like there's HIAs everywhere. There was sin bins on the weekend. Like there's sin bins all the time now. Like things are changing more than they used to, and I think with Crichton and Whiten together, wherever you want to play them, together they cover fullback, wing, centre, 5'8", and lock. So from that point of view, I can completely understand where Freddie's coming from, having those two in the team and Crichton on the bench. I would have rather if those two were picked. I love Stephen Crichton. I would have loved to start him, but Freddie's Freddie, so we'll see how he goes.
But do we think I think we all agree Crichton deserves a debut at some stage. Yep. Like, you know, absolutely. I honestly, initially, I actually had Crichton starting probably before Staggs, but I can understand why he's gone Staggs on the other side. There's his good side, all that kind of stuff. But do we think that is it a safe decision to cover injuries that may never happen and you're going to lose a guy like Hines coming off the bench? Do you think that having Hines come off the bench, he could affect the game more coming in that roving role?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that potentially Freddie might be a little bit rattled. Remember a couple of years ago when everyone said pick Pappenhausen on the bench, he didn't. Then had the Teddy injury and everyone sat there and went, oh, well, Teddy got injured. Freddie's a moron. Why didn't he do this? I think it was a bit of a hindsight call, but maybe he is a little bit rattled from that.
Yeah, but then wouldn't you pick Hines because he can cover the fullback? Or as in because Crichton, I think, can cover more positions?
Devil's advocate, but I think Hines has been the best player in the comp this year, and I think a lot of people agree with that. But Stephen Crichton has the runs on the board when it comes to winning big moments in big games, and which is a very high criteria for Origin.
So you reckon Freddie is gone, I know Crichton has done something big, and I'm going to trust that when he comes on, he'll make something happen.
And I think Stephen Crichton is also, you know, I don't love him off the bench, but I do understand probably where Freddie's coming from. That how do you prepare for Stephen Crichton? I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah. And those you know what I just love about Crichton, and I spoke about it in my why you should pick Crichton. You put him on an edge or whatever, those crossfield bombs, Jeremiah Nanai has absolutely been tearing teams apart on the bombs that land. Because if you do those little crossfield kicks and we know Cleary can put it anywhere, if you land that on the 3-in, which is the halfback, or the wide running forward, which is 4-in, there's no escorts for that. You can't prepare really. You don't have enough time to get around and block the catcher. And so the angle, and also the angle that you're running in on is a much different angle to a winger running in. So I wonder whether that's where he's going to find because Cleary and Crichton have proven that they do have a good kicking connection with each other. So maybe that's the attacking weapon he's going to rely on.
I think that Crichton and Nanai, as you said, off kicks, you just feel like one of them's going to have an impact at some point. As you said, they're obviously going to drop their kicks on heads that aren't used to going.
Don't drop kids on heads. Not what happened to me when I was younger. Don't do that to everyone.
Clip that. I think, you know, you just feel like one of them's going to come on and have a big impact. I think Ryan Madison's a good pick on the bench too. I mean, crazy that Maddo has been starting for so many years and doing so well. Then he gets relegated to the bench for Parramatta and you sort of go, oh, that's Cactus. He won't be able to get in now. And then he just kills it. Now he's there. Like, he's another guy that I look at and think he could handle a number of positions too. If you were desperate and you needed someone to plug out in the centres, you could go with Matto. I'm confident he'd do a job
Even
for you.
put him at 6 if you had to.
6, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can cover a lot of roles, Matto. Do you look at the bench? So we've got Liam Martin, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Stephen Crichton, Matto. I mean, is it a small bench, or is the game just sort of changed that you don't need 2 out-and-out front rowers that you can run with a Martin and a Madison?
Mate, Madison's a big boy now. He's a fucking big boy.
So in my mind, when I sort of look at it and go, is it a bit small? Is that just me falling into the trap of going, Madison normally plays back row? Like,
I think so.
Yeah.
Matto's a big fucking boy now.
Yeah.
And Campbell-Gillard is obviously a front, a very, a strong front rower.
I just think their back row, there's so much leg speed. Their bench between Martin and between Madison. I think Freddie's really picked a particular sort of team to go at them. Regan Campbell-Gillard, he's a guy that he's been playing good footy, but I probably didn't expect him to get the pick a couple of weeks ago. But now that he's there, he's great, Regan Campbell-Gillard too, because he's such a different body shape. He's that tall, sort of lanky, sort of, when you compare him to your starting front rowers, Payne Haas and Junior Paula, who are just these juggernauts coming at you. I do like the change in body shape that a guy like Regan Campbell-Gillard brings off the bench.
Very aggressive too.
Yeah,
very aggressive.
The one that surprised me, Tyson Frizzell. If you're moving away from a guy like Jake Trbojevic, for example, if you're moving away from your David Clemmers, these sort of guys, even though Clem hasn't been there for a couple of years, I think it's pretty obvious that he is sort of moving to the future now. I don't understand why you pick Frizzell and he's not in the team. That one doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm picking Frizzell, I'm picking him and he's going to be in my 17. I don't pick him to be 18, 19, 20.
It's like a wasted spot for experience.
Seems like a very... And then when you consider the rest of his team and who he's gone for in his extended bench, your Sawalis, these sort of guys, he's looking to the future. A Frizzell pick, I don't know. When I saw him last night, I thought, fuck, there's a chance that he might be in the starting 13.
I thought he would. I thought he was going to. I thought Sims may miss out on that starting 13, and they would put Sims, Tarek there, Tyson Frizzell there. It's a really interesting one, because what a great opportunity to get a guy like Olakau'atu.
Kolomantangi.
Just
There's
get him in
guys
there.
to pick from, yeah.
And that's not to say like Frizzell shouldn't be in the squad. It's more to say like Frizzell's been there and done that. He doesn't need experience. Like he even to the point where, let's say someone gets injured in the camp, you don't bring in Olakau'atu to the 17. You call Frizzell in late and you go, and I know some people go, why would you do that? And you're like, well, again, it's all about experience. For example, Suwali, like if Tupou goes down in camp, I assume he calls in Fox. He doesn't debut Suwali. We all know. We'll get to Suwali though. We'll get to him.
I would even say if one of the front rowers gets injured this week, I reckon he probably makes a call too, Jake Trbojevic.
Yeah,
I
for
wouldn't
sure.
be surprised if he does.
For sure. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's look, that Whiten decision, I expected that he would play for number 4. The biggest surprising thing for me though is that Crichton is 14. So there must be a very specific idea in Freddie Fittler's head, and Crichton must be able to bring it up. But I'm stoked for Crichton. And I'll put it this way, I don't think Crichton's going to let anyone down.
No way.
No, like I don't think he's going to let anyone down. Now, is he going to be out of... I think that maybe Freddie's sitting there going, look, I've got Nathan Cleary, one of the best 7s we've ever seen, literally. Like statistically, everything, when you look at this age, he's one of the best 7s we've ever seen. Now, will he end up one of the best 7s? We don't know. Time will tell. But for his age, he's right up there. And so Freddie might be thinking, yes, Hines has been incredible in his ball playing and his ability to put other people in space, but I've got Cleary to do that. Like and Luai, I've got enough players to be able to do that. So why have another guy on the bench to just do what more of Cleary can do? Yeah. Now, in the argument against that would be Hines is leading the game for line break assists. I'm pretty sure he is. He was last week anyway. And so, even Cleary isn't having as many line break assists as Hines. So it's a really interesting selection. I do think that it's around the idea of there's so many HIAs, there's so many sin bins. I think HIA is really going to affect Origin this year because we're so serious about it. And I think he's gone for a bench that's just can cover as many positions as possible. What do you got there, Matty?
Hines is leading still the comp. He's still in the comp in line break assists. And to your point before, Guru, as you say, Dan, how he wants to cover. Like Freddie's probably his major only mistake in like 4 years was not having a fullback in that 2020 game 3. And that was unfortunate because there was an injury to James Tedesco. But maybe he's thought, okay, I don't want that to happen again. So.
In his defence, though, Gutho was playing in centres and got moved back there.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And I think it was more, then he didn't have a centre to play centre. Because who ended up being in the centres that game? And he didn't get found out, but it was a tough gig.
I'll find out.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a good chance that has played a role there. I think what you just said, obviously Nico Hines is in great form, no denying that. But I think as well, with Stephen Crichton, as we said, like last year's final series, he was the best player in the final series.
So good.
Like he without playing in a heap of big games, every big game he has played in, he has stood up and he's delivered something special every single game. So yeah, when I look at it from a Queensland perspective, having Stephen Crichton on the bench, I don't know how Freddie's going to... Like, we're going to spend all week talking about how the fuck is he going to use Crichton.
Yeah.
And I think Queensland will sort of be in a similar boat. So...
maybe that's another reason.
That could be,
The X of like, we don't know we can't plan for when Crichton's going to come on. And also, we just don't know what he's going to do. Like,
and mate, fuck, even if he was playing centre, it's hard to plan for Crichton.
Yeah.
Because he can just do shit that no one else can.
So athletic, his ability.
I think it might have been Isaiah Yeo who came on and played
Isaiah
centre.
Yeo went to the centre and he struggled a little bit in centre, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So from that perspective, you can kind of see where he's coming from. And also, Crichton's a pretty big body. Like, he's like 95, 96 kilos. I know he doesn't have that much meat on his bones yet, but he's still a large body that could probably get through, could be lock if you had to. Look, if Cotter can play lock, Crichton can play lock. So look, in Freddie, we trust as if you're a Blues fan. He's got it right. He's got it right way more times than not. When he debuted all those players all those years ago, everyone was going, Freddie's out of his mind, but he had a game plan and they nailed it. And also, this is the same coach that had a record win last year, so he knows what he's doing. I feel like Hines very, very unlucky to miss out, but I think it's just a matter of time for Hines. Just a matter of time. He'll get there.
What about some of the guys that have missed out altogether? Obviously, Josh Adokar has been the headline.
Yeah, well, let's talk quickly about Tupou. Thoughts on his selection?
Yeah, I like the pick. We'll get to Fox in a second. I don't think that Fox deserved to miss out, but it's hard to say that Daniel Tupou is a bad pick. It's impossible to say it, in my opinion. He has been so consistent for so long. I remember we came into that series last year and all the chat leading up to it was, Queensland's aerial attack, they're going to jump all over. And they didn't. They still can, no doubt about that. But Daniel Tupou, I think it's a good reward for he's been so consistent for a decade. People forget, like, he was doing this shit in the 2013 grand final against Manly. That's 10 years ago.
It's insane.
Earlier in his career, he had a lot of errors coming out of his own end and everything, and I still think some people hold on to that, but he's a completely different footballer now.
I have a question for both of you. Obviously, it's all opinion, but if you had to pick a team of the decade, would Tupou be in your team? NRL team, that is.
I mean, I think most people would, and this is no disrespect to Tupou, because he's such a humble, doesn't big note or anything. I think most people would forget him, and then you'd bring him up, and they'd go, oh, fuck, okay. You know what I mean? It'd be one of those things.
He's sort of like the Jamie Lyon of the last decade. I felt like you saw these team of the years and then team of the decades, and someone threw up Jamie Lyon, you went, oh, fuck, he was actually a weapon.
Yeah, he was actually hectic. Yeah. So
for me, though, I think it's clearly Morris and Tupou. You could argue Radraja, but he didn't play that long.
What about Fox?
Fox came in a little bit later, but...
Yeah, but look what he's done in that time.
Yeah,
he's got the record for tries and, 6 tries in a game. He's done it at Origin level.
Yeah, it's a great
He's done
debate.
it on both wings too.
Put it this way. Any team that had Tupou in it, I would absolutely be okay with that.
Especially when you're stuck up, last 10 years, he's won 3 premierships.
Well, he's done the most.
Yeah.
No winger's won more premierships than him in the last 10 years, if I recall correctly.
Has he been a try scorer in all those grand finals? I think definitely 2 of them he has been as well, and big tries that he came up with.
He's so good. He's just so humble and respectful that you just don't. He just goes about his business, just does his job, and so. It's hard because I feel like I have to compartmentalize this, where you just look at Tupou, you don't look at who he replaced or whatever, and you go, he's playing outstanding this year, outstanding. He's a big body, so he'll be able to combat the Coates, crossfield kicks or whatever. I think that, yes, a lot of people talked last year about the crossfield kicks and it never happened. I think that was just down to game management and poor kick selection from the Maroons. Big body coming out of trouble as well. Like he's coming out of trouble runs are just honestly nearly second to none. So Tupou being there, congratulations, absolutely deserved. Now we're just talking about the Fox. We're not saying one over the other kind of thing. It's just talking about the Fox and his loyalty and his incredible service to New South Wales. He's got some of the most tries. I think he's the third most tries scored for New South Wales. I think he's played 10 games and scored 11 tries, or maybe the other way around. I tell you what, I feel like this is a very tough call on the Fox.
I agree, mate. I think it's very tough. I think he's also, you got all the on-field stuff. I think he's just also he just brings so much energy to a footy side. I know Canterbury are struggling, but mate, the amount of times I'm able to hear his voice when I'm sitting in my lounge room and he's 60 metres away on that wing and you can hear him, he brings so much energy. He's never put a foot wrong, in my opinion, Fox. I think he's very hard done by, as we said. We're obviously talking about them as completely separate entities. I don't think that Tupou's a bad call, but I feel sorry for Fox. I really do. Yeah. He's been, I would argue he's been one of the more consistent guys over the last 4 or 5 years. He hasn't done it as long as Tupou, but fuck, he's been consistent. Yeah.
It's super, super tough, this one. I don't know how I feel about it, because if you just look at Tupou's year, you go, wow, he's playing really well. He deserves it. But then, when you look at what Fox has done, his body of work in Origin too, it's been pretty good. Is this concerns of loyalty? Do you think that the message that kind of sends to the squad is quite ruthless in nature? Or do you think that Freddie has such a good squad where they all understand it's just about what he thinks is best for the squad?
Yeah, I'd like to think that Freddie has spoken to Fox and, you wouldn't want to be playing Fox next weekend, would you?
Freddie has spoken to Fox. He's confirmed it, yep.
Yeah, good. I don't know. Freddie's obviously got a game plan that he wants to stick to and he has his reasons, and I'm sure he would have been upfront and honest about those. I understand what you're saying from that Queensland point of view of stick and pick. We back our guys.
Well, ask ourselves, would Queensland have dropped Fox?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's the right or wrong call. I'm just saying it's two different approaches.
Yeah,
and,
exactly right.
Maybe it could be right, maybe it could be wrong.
Yeah, and if we look back, if in 2 or 3 years' time and New South Wales have won 3 in a row, we'll go, fuck, Freddie was a genius.
Yep, absolutely.
Saying it how it is, picking who he wants to pick, not who public pressure selects for him.
Which you want in a coach to be.
I like it.
Yeah.
I personally do. I like that he's made the decision. I wouldn't have made some of these decisions. I think that if he would have dropped Fox and picked someone that was undeserving, maybe then I'm going, fuck, I don't know about it. But picking Daniel Tupou is never a bad pick. Repeating ourselves, but I feel sorry for Fox, obviously. But I know Tupou's going to do a job for us. I know he is.
Yeah, look, it's the thing. It's kind of like a paradox in a way, but you kind of want your great coaches to make decisions that a lot of us can't understand necessarily, because that's what makes them a great coach. They see things that we don't see. There's a reason why Freddie Fittler is who he is. There's a reason why New South Wales are on the precipice of having a dominant few years. Now, I think Queensland's squad has improved dramatically in the last 12 months, where that, if you would have backed that in 12 months ago saying New South Wales may win 5 or let's just say 3 in a row, if you had to say that at the end of last series, people would have been like, yeah, I can see 3 in a row for sure. I think that the Queensland teams have improved so much over the last 12 months that most people are like, I don't know about that anymore. But he has put them in a really good stead to maybe challenge for a couple in a row.
And I mean, mate, I have a look at this side and, we talk about, you want coaches to make decisions that we don't understand at the time that make sense later. Daniel Saifidi was an absolute cracker. Mm-hmm. I did not hear anyone say a single positive thing about Daniel Saifidi when he got picked. Everyone was very, what on earth is that? How has he got picked? A guy like Liam Martin, he picked him very early. Mate, do you remember how much shit Nathan Cleary was copping 3 years ago in the Origin
and he
arena?
Stuck with him too.
Stuck with him.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and I think this is where Queensland fans are better than us, I think we all think we're smarter than Freddie. No one understands State of Origin more than Brad Fittler in New South Wales. I think he has got the runs on the board. He lost the 2020 series, no doubt about that. But, I mean, the reality of State of Origin is that Queensland's going to do that every few years.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, just part of it.
That's not excusing Freddie, but you know he made bad decisions throughout that series.
And he went against the master Wayne Bennett. You know, people forget that.
That was set up for Wayne Bennett so fucking perfectly.
Oh,
hey
God.
Wayne, your team sucks. You can't win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and by the
Sweet.
way, I'm just going to bring my mate in, Malmaninga.
Yeah.
For 1 year.
Just
One
for
year
1
only.
Yeah.
People underappreciate. Like, I feel like he was just the Pied Piper. He came in, kept it real low key. He just left and rode off into the sunset and didn't really make a big huff and puff about it. Didn't do all these pieces of like Wayne's greatness. It was almost like a robbery in the night. He was like a thief in the night. I'm just going to come in, bomb, do it. Just let everyone know who the master still is and then bounce. I think people don't appreciate what happened there, you know?
100%. You know, and I think Freddie has got that about him where he can get the best out of guys. Whether you like Freddie or not, and he does some fucking rogue shit, taking the shoes off and doing weird stuff, but he gets the best out of guys.
Yeah.
Freddie has always got the best out of guys. Whether it's, you know, when he took over that Roosters side in 07 or 08, they were going like a busted arsehole. All of a sudden, Freddie gets in there, and because he's Freddie, he can get the best out of guys. I look at a guy like Jacob Saifiti, and I saw everyone on social media bagging him last night, and I was just sitting there going, this is Daniel all over again. Freddie knows Origin. Freddie sees something in Jacob that the rest of us didn't see in Daniel. All of a sudden, he's a premier front row in rugby league.
Sometimes the selections aren't even about, like, when you see a guy with potential, you bring him in because he may need to learn something off these great players. So Freddie may see something in Jacob that is like untapped potential. And he goes, look, I'm going to bring him in and get him around greatness. And for example, Stefano last year gets called into the New South Wales camp, goes back to Tigers. He was a totally different player. It was honestly like a different person had rocked up in a Tigers jersey. Yep. He all of a sudden, you could even argue the back end of 2021, Stefano was a premier front rower. Stefano, like, he was outstanding. And he even said, I went to Origin camp and I saw guys like Dale Finucane and all those other boys, the standards they set, it just made me realise what I need to do. And maybe that's what we're seeing a little bit with Freddie and Jacob.
And mate, at the back end of last year, I don't care what anyone says, Jacob was killing it for the Knights. Hasn't played his absolute best footy this year. I understand that. I think Clemmer has been a better front rower for Newcastle, but there's obviously more going on there. He got the player for the Knights last year, Jacob Saifiti.
Yeah.
He hasn't picked a bum out of the car park. He can play. And I think, I don't know if he plays in this game or not. You would have to assume that he doesn't. But, mate, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jacob Saifiti go on a similar tear to what Stefano did.
Yeah.
Last year.
And again, it's all about, we have to remember, Freddie Fittler was a part of the development of a lot of these guys 5 years ago. He understands what is needed to develop these guys to become the players they need to be. Not tomorrow, not in 2 months, in 2 or 3 years, or 3 or 4 years.
Mate, he was having conversations with Jacob and his brother 5 years ago. When none of us knew who they were, and they were 16, 17 coming through the grades, and he knew who they were, and he was learning about their character then.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, I'm of the mind of this. There are some decisions that I'm like, I wouldn't have made those choices, but I'm just going to defer to the fact that Freddie sees something that I don't. For example, if I was selecting the side, I probably would have Hines as 14. Even though, put it this way, on form, if I was selecting the side, I would have had Staggs at 3, Crichton at 4, and I would have had Hines at 14, and I would have had Whiten at 18. I believe he's a really good 18th man, because anyone goes off with a HIA, he pretty much can cover that. A HIA that's fair play or whatever. Could you just check that rule? I'm pretty sure if it's fair play, HIA, you can bring that 18th man. It got changed last year, didn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, talk about quickly. Tariq Sims, thoughts on that selection? Because
another one.
You go to Fox and you go, well, wouldn't he have been loyal to him and Jake Trbojevic? But he's clearly loyal to Sims, because Sims, he got dropped from his club team. And no, granted, he fought his way back in. And do you think Freddie's going, look, the way he played last year, I know he's going to...
Oh, I think so. And like we spoke about this in bits and pieces. And I said to you, I think he's going to be really loyal to these guys. And when I opened the team list last night, I didn't see it in a list. I just saw it in like a paragraph. And the first name I saw was Sims. And I thought, okay, here we go. We've gone with the old guard. And then the more I looked at the side, the more I went, fuck, is he being loyal or what's he doing here? It is a bit odd. But I just think Tariq Sims, he came in and did such a good job last year that I think Freddie knew after game 3 last year that Sims was going to be in the side this year, regardless of what happens. I mean, mate, if there's another sign of Tariq Sims and who he is, the Melbourne Storm just signed him.
Yeah. And if the Storm's signing you at that age of your career, you got something.
You got something to offer after he was the best forward on the field last year. And, he hasn't been great at St. George, but there has been little flashes this year of little things that he's done that he's still got it.
Absolutely.
I just think with Staggs debuting a centre, White not usually a centre, and Crichton perhaps will come on the field at centre at some point, we don't know, and he hasn't played Origin before. Freddie just wants the people sitting next to him, Sims and Cam Murray, to have played Origin before to help them in defence. Would you agree?
That's a good point. Like calm in the cauldron, in the massive moment, someone beside you that's like done the job, knows it.
Which side do we think Murray and Sims will play?
Well, last year Murray was on the right and Sims was on the left, because you remember Sims threw that really good pass to Toto.
That was crazy. What's interesting is Cam Murray essentially had one job last year and it was shut down for feeder. Whereas this year it's for feeder.
No, he's not.
Feeder's missed out.
Yeah.
Just while you get that up, the 18th man, there's two reasons they can be activated. When 3 players fail a HIA, or when 1 player suffers a HIA caused by foul play.
Yeah, so correct. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense, like with the Hines at 18th man, because you're going, if one of my halves, 6 or 7, which is Cleary and Luai, Origin, they have a tendency to target, mate, just go and fucking take his head off.
If there's any game, it's going to happen.
Maybe that's where he's gone, you know what, I'm going to keep Hines at 18 because I can bring him in anyway, because there's a very good chance my Teddy's going to get head high, Cleary's going to get head high, or Luai's going to get head high. And vice versa. There's a very good chance Munch is going to get head high, DC is going to get head high, or Ponga's getting head high. And so maybe when I put it in that lens, I can kind of see where Freddie's coming from with that.
Yeah, I think the only spot that interests me in this, and you can't pick a whole team to cover injury, but if something was to happen to Damien Cook, what do they do there?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, you're probably going to have to chuck White in there.
Yeah, you probably are, but fuck, tough. Do you throw? Yeah, I don't know what they do. I mean, as I said, you can't pick a side for that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, you're probably just going to have to put White in there.
Or Cameron Murray. I
was going to say Murray or Maddo, maybe. Unless
I don't want Murray in there.
Yeah.
I don't want Murray. He's just such quality ball runner. He's such a quality ball runner, and he's so good in. I want him out on the edge at the very least, or 13 if he has to be. I would put White in the dummy half. We know he can pass. We know he can tackle. So look, really interesting. Really interesting. I do think he's picked. Outside of probably. It's hard because when you go, he's picked on form, then you look at a couple of players, you're like, well, no, he hasn't picked on form. Like, he's picked on loyalty, and then you look at other players, you're like, well, no, he hasn't picked on loyalty, he's picked on form. So, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Liam Martin, thoughts about his selection at 15?
Yeah, I sort of thought Liam Martin might fall out of it, to be honest with you. But you talk about guys that are just made for Origin. He's just too tough for his own good, Liam Martin. I'll never push back on anyone selecting Liam Martin in a footy side. He's obviously gone with a pretty heavy Penrith group there, which makes complete sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flying at the moment. But yeah, do you see Tariq Sim? I mean, even Cam Murray. Cam Murray's only come back from injury last week. Do you see the both of them being 80-minute back rowers, or does Martin and Maddo maybe come on for stints on the edge?
I tell you what, they'd be damaging if they did. Fresh on the edge there, running mad lines. Really, really interesting. Yeah, I'm the same. Look, what I like about Liam Martin, the pace of Origin is usually quicker than a normal game. And because he is a smaller kind of dynamic, he reminds me a little bit of Anthony Watmough, to be honest. Smaller kind of like agile back rower. I think he suits impact really well because it gets tired and he just starts punching holes, and everyone, all of a sudden the momentum of the game and the speed of the game is increased. Thoughts on, it's probably, Regan Campbell-Gillard that's taken the spot. Jake Trbojevic missing out.
Yeah, I would have picked Jake Trbojevic. I don't think his form has been as good this year in previous seasons, but I still would have picked him. I think he's done enough for the New South Wales Blues. Man, I posted on my Instagram last night. I would never back Gerbo out, but has Freddie sent a bit of a sign here?
It's an interesting one.
He's picked a lot of young front rowers. I mean, I looked at the side and I thought, okay, if he's not going to go for Gerbo, I understand him not having him in 18, 19, 20. I get that. But now that he's got Tyson Frizzell there, I don't know. I think it's a bizarre one. I'm starting, and like I said to a bloke last night, he said, oh, he'll definitely be back. And I said, yeah, but you would have said the same thing about Josh Jackson in 2017 when he stopped getting picked. Oh, he'll be back. He's good enough. He's the toughest guy on the field. He's done this. He's done that. We never saw Josh Jackson again.
Yeah. What I think the selection is about is that I know, and Matty, you can probably speak better to this. From my understanding with like listening to Freddie and the way he talks about footy, he loves like explosive, fast players. And we saw that, especially last year, is this whole new game style of just on the front foot, very fast, explosive players. And I wonder whether he's gone, Turbo, Jake Trbojevic, he gets through a bunch of work, but I've got guys like Cam Murray, Isaiah Yeo there to do that kind of, that gritty hard work. I'm going to bring in someone that's explosive, aggressive, high energy. I know Jake Trbojevic, I know that he is aggressive in defence, but is he as explosive and fast as these new guys? Maybe that's what Freddie's seeing.
Can I ask you this then? If Dale Finucane was fit, does he get picked? He was the vice captain when he came in for Game 3 last year. I sort of put him in a similar sort of category to Jake to some extent. If Dale wasn't injured, I mean, based on what we've seen here, does he get picked?
I think Dale is still a little bit more explosive than Jakey at the moment. Okay. Like, he still has that speed, but
he's not on the level of these guys that Freddie has.
No, absolutely. I do think that you have to start, being like, is he the guy going forward? I don't know. There's just something about Dale and Origin, though.
Okay, so assuming Dale, he could be fit in 2 or 3 weeks' time. He could still be playing. I think he'll still be playing next year. I think it's hard for Jake to get back into this side. If he likes the look of Jacob Saifidi, there's no doubt he likes Daniel Saifidi. I mean, I think he falls
then
a couple of...
Then you've got Stefano as well.
Angus Crichton isn't in this fucking team either.
Yeah, we've got to speak about that as well.
It becomes very tough, I think, for Gerbo, and it kills me to say it because I love Gerbo. I would have picked him. But I think Freddie sent a bit of a sign here.
Yeah,
Just what you said before about speed and explosiveness. Freddie's thing, whenever I was in camp anyway, his thing was always finishing fast, and that was the theme of the 2019 Origin Series so much that he actually brought in Ian Thorpe to camp and showed them his swim at the Olympics where he was behind and then won the gold medal when he was 17, and the whole theme was finishing fast. We remember what happened at the end of 2019 series. Tedesco scores that try, they finished fast. I'll put in the YouTube description, go have a look. It's Freddie's speech after the 2019 series after Teddy scored. And all he finished was, he was almost lost for words, but he's like, all we've spoken about all camp is finishing fast. So give that a watch. But maybe that's where he's coming from with these kind of younger, explosive players because he wants, to be ahead of Queensland.
He doesn't want to get into that grind and like be grinding at the end of the game, back and forth. He wants to be like, no, we go up a fucking year at the end of the game. Which is interesting because Trent Robertson was talking about second halves in the year that 2013, the whole preseason was like, we're a second half side. The first year Trent Robinson came in, he sat all the boys down, Anthony Minicello tells his story, and he goes, I've gone over all the video from last year and we fade away in X amount of games. Like, we are not a second half side. He said the whole preseason, we are going to become a second half side. And what do you know, in the grand final, they were a second half side. They won the comp in the second half. So I think that, a guy like Jakey T, in the end of the game, is he explosive and fast? No, he's grinding. He's getting through the tough yards, the tough tackles, the tough carries. So really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. I feel for the Fox and Jakey, I feel, definitely bad for. They're going to be devastated. I think they've both got enough talent to fight their way back in, for sure.
Sorry, just on Tupou, I just thought I'd look up the stats. Obviously, like we all agree that Tupou probably earned his spot more than Fox got dropped. Like, we all love Tupou, but his four of his 5 most important games this year were against the Broncos, who are top 4 now, South, Derby, Eels, and Panthers. And in all of those games, he ran over 180 metres.
Yeah.
And those are his top 4 games of the year.
Yeah, which that's fucking says something, because it's not easy, but for a guy like Tupou, it's easy to do that against the bottom teams, but to do that against the best, the big dogs when you're under the pump, really interesting. But I think I understand your sentiment. Like, is Freddie sending a bit of a to Jakey, like, you know, you're on the end of your Origin career? Mm-hmm. I see where you're coming from, but I think Jakey can. Jakey can come back and get his spot back.
Yeah, mate, I know he's got the ticker and the heart and the ability to get his spot back. I look at the squad that Freddie's picking and the guys that are injured or aren't in it at the moment, and I do wonder. You know, he's obviously heading in a certain direction, but I think this game in Sydney is the one that would have been most suited to Jake as well.
Yeah,
I think you get to a fast track at Perth and up there in Brisbane. I think it moves further away from Jake. And all of a sudden, if they manage to win this series where they win in Sydney, they win in Perth, and they win at 2-1 or whatever, if they do, I mean, are you going to... Like, I think Jake Trbojevic over the offseason is going to get really fucking lightning quick all of a sudden. He's still going to be the same guy he is now, you know?
So you're thinking more like the style Freddie wants to play may not suit.
Yeah, I think that the way that Origin footy is going to be played and was played last year, so how fast it was, I think it has maybe moved away from Jake a little bit, which isn't Jake's fault.
Yeah, look, interesting. Now, Angus Crichton left out of the entire squad. Oh, man. I know he hasn't been starting for the Roosters, but I just think, for example, in the series that New South Wales lost to Queensland a couple of years ago, Crichton was probably your best player in that last game. Huge call. What do you think about this call? Like, for example, do you think Angus Crichton is better suited to Origin than, say, Liam Martin?
I probably do. I prefer to have a body like Angus Crichton's coming off the pine there. And, you know, you mentioned he obviously hasn't been starting for the Roosters. I personally think he wasn't starting for the Roosters because their middles were screwed at the start of the season. I don't personally think it was an Angus problem. I think it was a middle problem and they needed him in there. He has started in the last few weeks and shocked me. The Roosters are looking more and more like the team that we expect them to be, you know. So, yeah, I think Angus is very hard done by. I would have had him in my team. I think I probably would have had him just start in my team, to be honest with you.
I thought he was going to start. I thought he may just nick Sims' spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, not even on the bench.
At the same time, if Freddie believes in Sims, and, you know, Sims is self-aware enough, he would know. He'd be looking around the room going, if I don't play well, there are so many guys who could come in for me straight away that will do such a good job, like an Angus Crichton. So, you know, it could push the very best out of the guys he has got, but I would have picked him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, in Freddie we trust. There must be something that he's seeing. Now, I just want to talk about Joseph Suaalii. I love this decision. I love this decision. Anyone that has been watching the Roosters games and hasn't been... If you think that Suaalii doesn't deserve to be in the position he's in, you haven't been watching Roosters games. Now, why I say specifically the position he's in, he isn't going to play, guys. He's there for experience. He's 18 years old. I love this selection, and I absolutely believe his form has warranted his spot. And I think it's super smart from Freddie because once, every now and then, like, you know, a generational guy comes through where you go, for example, Jared Hayne coming through Origin, or, you know, and I think Suaalii can be this generational kind of weapon for New South Wales, bringing him super early. Find out also, like, where does he fit in this? Is he going to be our fullback? Is he going to be our winger? Is he going to be a centre for us long term? I love this decision, and I think Suaalii, if you took out all the names and everything and you just looked at stats, ever since he came in and was selected to start on the wing, he has been absolutely outstanding. Outstanding. What are your thoughts on Suaalii's selection?
I like it. I thought it was interesting listening to what Freddie said last night about this one. He said that he's spoken to guys that play with Suaalii and guys that have played against Suaalii, guys that have directly marked up against him, and they all backed him in.
He's a beast.
He's a weapon, yes. And I understand, I don't, but anyway, people have said, oh, you know, why is he in the side? Why isn't Campbell Graham in there? And for me, I think it's so blatantly obvious what Freddie is doing with Suaalii. As you said, he's not going to play. You look at other guys in this team, and over the years, you know, we've seen Zach Lomax in camp. We've seen Stephen Crichton. We've seen Campbell Graham. I just don't see the point in bringing in a Campbell Graham again to stand around for another camp.
Yeah.
He's been there. He's experienced. Why not give Suaalii an opportunity to come in and experience it? He knows that Campbell Graham, he can call on him if he needs him. I think he knows he can call on Zach Lomax.
But also, like, the key is this, is like, you know, I agree, everything you just said. Campbell Graham is a great centre. He's not a great centre yet because he hasn't, but he's a really, really good centre. Suaali's generational. Like he truly. So to say like why you wouldn't bring him in to get his experience early is insane. Like you'd almost go like bring him in last year. I know that's too early, but I'm just saying that the potential Suaali has is absolutely incredible, and so it's even more reason to bring him in instead of.
But if you are one of the people that holds the opinion, Campbell Graham is more likely.
It's a waste of Campbell Graham's time.
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of his time. He's been in. We put it this way: he's been in. We know Freddie likes him. We know Campbell Graham's a fantastic bloke. We know he's a great player. What's the point? All you're doing is robbing him of being away from his club. Whereas Suaali, we don't know what he like. Freddie doesn't know what he's like as a bloke. Doesn't know what he's like as a trainer. Doesn't know whether he gels with the boys. He's going to find all of that out. What is important is it is crucial for the future of New South Wales. Now, I'm not talking about as a whole team and they're going to fall apart with Suaali. But when I'm talking about finding those generational talents that literally win Origin Series, Suaali may never do that, but he's one of those guys that potentially could do that. So why not get him in as soon as possible to just get your hands on him and start moulding him into the player that we know he can be? We have to remember, guys, this kid is 18 years old still. I implore you, if you haven't, go back and watch a few of the Roosters' last games. If you've got to spare 40, 80 minutes, watch the KO minis, whatever. Suaali has been outstanding. And also, even ask every Roosters fan over the last 5 weeks, how was Suaali been? And ask them, say, I want you to be 100% honest. And I promise you, you will not find a Roosters fan that hasn't been like, this kid has been special. And I think the Roosters have done an incredible job of keeping the hype on Suaali completely. They're the kings of it. They know how to do it. What do you got there, Matty?
I was just going to say, it's funny you say that. I was literally at the pub 2 days ago with my mate Josh, and he's a Roosters fan, and he said, look, there was heaps of hype about Suaali last year. He got overshadowed by Sammy Walker, and is him talking. And I didn't really buy into the hype, but now I'm on that hype train. That's exactly what he said. Exactly what you just said.
The kid is special. The fact that he's 18 years old and he's taking hit-ups that are similar to Tupou's and physically can handle that contact, it's outrageous.
And that's the thing. The hype train was highlights that we saw. His defence has been incredible.
Yep.
Coming out of his own end has been great. The scary thing is, as you said, he's 18. He's 18, but to me, he's already playing like a 22-year-old.
Easy.
He could come out of this fucking week playing like a 27-year-old.
Yeah, it's perfect time.
Scary what he could do.
Perfect decision by Freddie, and I totally get it. I understand people saying like, well, Campbell Graham, like he's probably closer to playing, and why wouldn't you put him there? But like, he just gains nothing. Like, of course he gains something, like being around Origins, but he's been there. He's been in the system. Freddie knows him. Everyone here knows Campbell Graham could do a job. You know what I mean? Like, we all know that. So why take away from a potential future game changer just to be like, tick a box and say, Campbell Graham's more deserving because he's playing good for the last few years. All you're doing is ticking boxes.
Yeah.
When in reality, you want to be putting as many young guns in there as possible.
So if you are the Roosters, like you're looking at this going, Suaali's going to go into camp, say he gets 15% better. You got a gun player. You got a pissed off Angus Crichton now. Yeah. Like, their sides look primed over the next few
they look like they're about to go on, at least build into something. That's what they look like.
You keep your halves, you keep your 9. Yes, you lose Teddy, but then you move Manu to potentially his better position.
I think it's his best position, fullback. I think it's incredible at fullback. So look, I think it's a great decision. One thing that I did surprise me a bit. I thought they would use one of these spots for an Olakau'atu or a Keon. I think they've missed a little bit of a beat there. Keon's already been in the camp though, hasn't he?
Yes.
I would have probably brought Olakau'atu in just to be around the system, see what he's like as a bloke. Because Olakau'atu has come out of nowhere. Like, he wasn't some young gun that's come through all the systems and killed it. Like, he's been a late-ish developer. He's like 22, 23. I would have brought Olakau'atu in just to be around the system. Now, in saying that, there are 2 more games to be able to do that. But look, the only decision that Freddie has made here that I fully am still unsure as to what will happen with that choice is the Crichton choice. And we have kind of we think we know what Freddie's thinking there is, and it's to cover as many positions as possible. If someone does get a head knock or 10 in the bin or whatever. Now obviously 10 in the bin, you don't cover that position, but you might be able to take off a forward and bring on a back that's more better defensively and laterally. So you're just moving much better laterally. So Really interesting. I love it. Let us know what you guys think about the selections.
I will say about Olakau'atu, and this I'm totally guessing here, but I would think that because Manly play this week and don't play in round 17, maybe Freddie's spoken to Des and Des is more reluctant to let Olakau'atu come out of this camp than game 3. I know the Roosters are playing as well, but I think just the situation Manly are in, I think maybe Des might have said, hey, can you do it in game 3? But I'm just guessing.
Yeah, like maybe like we need him.
Yeah.
You know, like can we just you bring him in game 3?
Yeah, when they have the bye.
I was just thinking too, just one, and I know we'll touch on it later, but can you imagine the reception Payne Haas is going to get in 4 weeks' time when he walks into Suncorp in a Blues jersey?
Yeah, wow. I will say it's interesting because Freddie's been quite vocal about disliking players that are very public about their contract situation. And to be fair, like, you know, if that was a lesser player that happened, would have he been selected, do you think?
Well, might be controversial, but I think that's sort of what kept Maddo back last few years, personally.
Well, am I being wrong here in saying Freddie has been pretty open about the fact he doesn't like players
I think so.
having contract negotiations being very public like that?
I think that's fair.
So interesting. Maybe it says there's more to the story than meets the eye. Maybe Freddie has spoken to Payne and said, like, you know, what's going on here, mate? Like, what's happening? You know, to be fair though, he'd be insane not to select Payne. But it is interesting. It is interesting because it's been pretty public knowledge that Freddie doesn't like to bring those distractions into camp. I think that in Payne's favour is he has still gone out and played so good that he's shown it's not going to distract him. But it is an interesting narrative. It absolutely you can't pretend it doesn't exist.
It's going to be the narrative of game 3.
But you can't pretend like Freddie hasn't been very public about you know not liking it, and I actually really like that Freddie is public about that and being just you know his opinion that he doesn't like players that do that. But we can't pretend like you know Payne Haas isn't currently going through that. So I wonder what the chat was like because I think that Freddie would have called him going, I want to speak to Payne first before I make this decision, maybe. I don't think Freddie would have made that decision without hearing Payne's side of the story first, then bring him in.
Do you think Freddie had this same team picked before this weekend? Like, do you think that, like, did a Daniel Tupou play so well against the Cronulla Sharks that he forced his way in? What I sort of want to ask you, I thought Fox yesterday that was a pretty average game from Fox. I thought I found it hard to watch because I love him so much. Do you think that even before that game kicked off yesterday, like is there a world where Fox was told, hey, this is your last chance to get over Daniel Tupou, or do you think Freddie had this picked the weekend before realistically? Even like a Hines, he wasn't overly impressive against the Chooks. I don't think Jack White was sensational against Parramatta either. But do you think this weekend played a role in any of those?
I mean, it must have because I don't know if it played a definitive role, but I do think he'd be crazy not to gather as much information as possible. And what I mean by that is like the longer you wait to make a decision, the more information you have. So I think a few of those decisions he probably waited till the last minute to make. But yeah, really interesting.
I'd love to see the scrapbook of Freddie to see what the team looked like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, oh yeah,
to
for
see
sure.
what's changed.
For sure. But I'm happy for Haas though. Like, and we'll get into the Haas situation because I'm as I think most people can expect, I'm really torn on this. Like, I'm really torn on this. Now let's get into the Queensland side. Kalen Ponga at fullback, Selwyn Cobbo on the sting. What an incredible turnaround. I think we can all agree, Maddie, you as well. Earlier in the year, we were all sitting here going, I don't know if he's ready for first grade yet. Correct?
100%.
We all kind of felt that?
Yep.
We all kind of agreed maybe 1 or 2 weeks in reserve grade would do his confidence really good.
Yep.
And why damage him long term? Because he's going to be a future superstar. That was our thinking. It's like, this guy is a guaranteed superstar. We can see that. But I tell you what, he has turned that around so quickly and so incredibly. There is no way you could leave him out of the side. There's no way.
Mate, halfway through last week, I was of the opinion it was probably too early. Now that I've seen him named there, and I think back to how young Billy was when he came into Origin, and I think, he's going to have Dane Gagai standing next to him. I'm so scared of him. as a New South Welshman, I'm petrified.
Because you can see it, eh?
You can see, and you don't know how it's going to happen. Whether it's going to be an intercept, a loose ball, a kick, whatever. You don't know how it's going to happen, but you know he's going to do something that you're not going to be able to handle. And I know we spoke about it a lot. Round 3, round 4, honestly, I would have put him in reserve grade just to get his confidence back. Not as a punishment, just to get his confidence back.
Yeah, to be clear, no one was talking up Selwyn Cobbo as much as we were at the end of last year. Like, everyone knows.
We said in the preseason that right edge could be the most potent edge in rugby league.
Literally, like Staggs, Selwyn could be the best combo in the rugby league.
Yeah.
So there's no one as high on Selwyn as we were.
And mate, we spoke about it a few weeks ago, and we all said we thought it looked like a turning point when he got out of the in-goals a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think it was against the Sharkies.
And it really was a turning point.
It was, mate.
Since then,
as soon as he played that ball, it was like he just said, fuck, I belong here. Not only do I belong here, I should be having impact here.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, I feel the same way about Billy. This is why, as a New South Welshman, last year I was so confident because personally I thought they picked the wrong coach. I think I thought it should have been Billy from the start. I look at this Queensland team now, and a guy like Selwyn, the last voice he hears before he runs out is going to be Billy fucking Slater. I just, I'm very worried about him.
Jonathan Thurston,
Cam Smith.
Yeah.
Right, you're gonna have Slater getting the outside backs, you're gonna have Smithy getting the forwards, and JT getting the halves. It's just like find me better. Alan Langer's gonna be in the room too. Honestly, find me better guys.
Yeah.
That you could hear.
And then you've got Hannay for the battlers, like the boys that they're not the cream of the crop. They're the fucking dogs in the middle.
And these are also like for you and me, a Mal Meninga would just be but these guys are all a little bit younger. Like it is Slater, Smith, JT. These are the guys that they grew up.
Yeah.
Watching and idolising. I guess
with Origin, it's like obviously less about coaching and more about who you'd run through a wall for.
Yeah, it's about getting them up.
I mean, Wayne and Mal proved that.
Yeah.
That side was, honestly, there was 3 or 4, maybe even 5 players in that Queensland side that were struggling to make, not because of their teams were so good, and they were literally struggling to make bottom 8 sides.
Yep.
Coming to Origin got the job done.
And that's where a Smithy and these guys, they would have watched Mal Meninga when they were kids. He was the Queensland guy.
Mate, so massive congratulations to Selwyn. And I think that it just proves that he's got that superstar. Only a superstar could have gone from making, I think it was 11 errors in 2 weeks. 11 errors in 2 weeks.
They were shit errors too.
And they were nothing errors. Yeah. Only a superstar that has greatness destined for him could turn that next week becomes the best, one of the best wingers in the comp. Only a superstar can do that. And that's why Selwyn, in my opinion, injury-free, he's destined for greatness.
And mate, as much as he doesn't say much, the more I hear him in interviews, the more I just love him.
Yeah.
He's just the most humble, down-to-earth kid.
That's the key. Honestly, the biggest challenge Selwyn will face is the rise to superstardom and fighting the world that puts you up on a pedestal and makes you forget that it's down here on the ground where you develop yourself as a player and a person. That's where you can't develop shit when you think that you don't need to do all the hard work that you did to get you where you are. The biggest challenge he will face will be gets comfortable, relies on his talent too much, and then he eventually, you don't see it the first year because he's too good. He's too much of a superstar. It's the second and third year where all those bad habits that crept in because everyone kept telling him how great he was and that he was bigger than all the small things that you need to do. That's the biggest challenge Selwyn will cape. Matter of fact, it's the biggest challenge any superstar faces. It's that comfortable bed being great.
When you look at Cobbo, and obviously it's all happened very quickly. He's now playing Origin. If you had to make a prediction, what year do you think he will start as the Brisbane Broncos full-time fullback?
Mate, you know what I've realised with Cobbo is normal people, us normal plebs, us normal peasants can't predict his greatness.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because he's working in a field that we don't understand. You know what I mean? Not that we don't understand, sorry. He's working in a frame and a mindset that breaks the mould. So it's like Latrell, it's like Greg Inglis, and I hate to use them because Selwyn's his own man, but looking at them play, you cannot deny the similarities. These guys break what you normally think can happen. Like you sit there and go, players that are big and strong, they're not that agile. GI comes along.
Yeah.
And then you go, players that are 110 kilos, massive, honestly, the frame of a front rower, they can't ball play. Then Latrell comes along. And I think that Selwyn, all bets are off when it comes to predictions. Now, if there's one man that's going to make a prediction after saying all that, it's me. I think that he will be playing fullback for the Broncos earliest next year, most likely the year after.
24, yeah.
Get some contact and footy under his belt.
Mate, can you imagine Selwyn in 8 weeks' time when he goes back to the Broncos full time and he's just spent 6 weeks with Dane Gagai? Like, fuck, it's scary to think what he could do.
Yeah, I know.
And mate, that Broncos right edge, we said it could be the most potent in rugby league. Tony Staggs is going to come back from 6 weeks of Origin footy with those guys. Selwyn's going to come back from 6 weeks of this. Like, that team, I'm sure we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Shock me.
Don't talk about Broncos too long. People sook in the comments section. I like what's crazy about the sook a bit, and look, it's a few obvious, but I think it is funny. I think most people can laugh at this as well. It's like, you can go into the description, you can count the minutes, and then you can compare it to other stuff. And you can see that it's like essentially about the same as everything else. And there will still be there were a couple of people in last week's comment section that said that I spoke about the Broncos for half the episode. That's 2 hours. Anyway, it is
Don't give them what they want.
Yeah. Don't give them what they want. Don't laugh.
That's it.
I think it's funny. I find it hilarious.
It is funny, yeah.
Because you know what? You know that it just comes from a place of like, I hate the Broncos.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the Broncos. So you're like, bruh.
Which most of us do. So
Yeah, fair call. Selwyn Cobbo, mate, as I said, even last week I was a bit like, oh, is it too early? No, I think he's made for Origin. Even if he goes out and doesn't have the best game, I still think he deserves to be there.
I've been talking, just assuming he's going to be on the right edge. Do you see that they play him on the right and they play Xavier on the left? Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
It'd be too much to play Cobbo on the wrong side, wouldn't it, when Xavier's played both?
And like Xavier, he hasn't really, outside of the first 4 or 5 weeks, he's been a bit quiet.
Yes.
Whereas like Selwyn, don't move the guy that's been tearing teams apart. Keep him in the spot that you need to keep him in, that he's going to get the best out of. So, yeah, I think you put him on his normal spot. Valentine Holmes at centre, I mean, the form he's going to be so much better for a year under his belt at centre. And he has been outstanding. He's been probably, do you reckon he's been the most consistent centre this year?
I think he has been, yes.
At least top 3.
From round 1 to round 11, yes.
Yeah, he's definitely been up there.
Who's been more consistent than him?
Well, that's what I'm trying to think.
Stagg started shit. He's gone great. Gagai had a couple of off weeks.
Crichton, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, then I take into consideration that Crichton's in the best team in the competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Val Holmes is in a team that we all thought was going to be fighting for a spoon last year.
It's great. It's kind of like, what's interesting about the Valentine Holmes, Dane Gagai, it's like the old guard versus the new up-and-coming. Now, I know Whiten's been around forever, but I'm just talking about the outside backs. You've got To'o. Oh, in saying that, when I say old guard, maybe Origin old guard, because Tupou hasn't played that much Origin for a while. To'o is new. Whiten hasn't played that much Origin.
It's like an experienced guard.
Yeah, because when you look at Valentine Holmes and Dane Gagai, we have to remember, these are two blokes that were a part of a lot of the 8 in a row.
8 in a row, yeah.
Like does that mean something? That counts for something.
I can't believe we're sitting here at Origin 1 and Queensland have named their team and I'm worried about their centres.
Yeah.
I remember a year ago thinking,
who do you put there?
I remember you were picking Capewell and I was going, they've done well to recover there.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, Hamiso played there last year and killed it. I thought he did really well in game 3. Good to see him in the squad. We'll talk about him soon. But Gagai and Holmes, which centre pairing would you rather have? I think I'd rather have Queensland's, to be honest with you, which is crazy.
Right now, yeah, absolutely, which you're right. I think at the start of the year, no one would have said that. But Dane Gagai and Origin Gagai, like I know people, the Origin Gagai joke, but I think he disproved that this year. He was incredible at the start of the year.
I also think, as much as that's a joke, I reckon it's the ultimate compliment. That on the biggest stage, he consistently stands up no matter who you put around him, what year it is. Doesn't matter.
And he does things where you're going, what? Like in Origin? Yeah. People, I think a little bit of like, not story, but people forget Dane Gagai came through the Broncos system. And I was there when Dane Gagai came through the Broncos system. And he was touted essentially as Justin Hodges' long-term replacement. He was the next big thing. They pushed him in probably a little bit too early. I think he debuted round 1 at fullback, dropped a couple of balls. But
I was about to say, was he a guy that they looked at as a centre or a fullback? Like, where did you think
he was
just
land? that he was the next big outside back of the Broncos. Because we had Justin Hodges, Kay had already moved on at that point, I'm pretty sure. Outside of that, Darius was gone at this stage. This is around 2010, I think.
Yep.
You know, you've had Jaral Yayi, but we didn't really know how he would turn out. He actually came into first grade, got dropped, came back in. So even though he ended up turning into what he did, which was an absolute beast, it was actually Dane Gagai that was like the guy. Probably bought him a bit too early. On top of that, you know, like I personally think a few decisions like, yes, Dane Gagai, he might have been late to training here or there, but I just don't think he was treated not unfairly. He was treated fairly because like you miss training, all that kind of stuff. You should be in trouble. But the right treatment. I think a coach like Wayne Bennett would have known exactly how to bring Dane Gagai through.
Yep.
Anyway, so Broncos end up. He's a guy that it doesn't get spoken about a lot. Broncos lost him. Like literally, I think they released him midway through the year. And I just don't know whether they had the experience to handle a guy like Dane Gagai. Obviously goes away and did what he did, but...
Well, like you've always been a team, the Broncos, whenever you've had good teams, you've always had a strike centre.
Yeah.
Whether it be Reno, whether it be Hodges, you know, and hopefully Staggs is now starting to fill that gap. But fuck, for the last 5 years, a Gagai would have been damn handy in that
Oh,
side.
man. Well, mate, the last 10 years. Imagine him at the Broncos the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, so every club loses a player, but it was just really interesting that I think a lot of people forget that he really was the cream of the crop. He was coming through the Broncos system when the Broncos were, you know, top dogs. Xavier Coates getting selected.
Sorry, just on Gagai, I just want to point out, he's the only ever winger to win Man of the Series in Origin.
Yeah. I mean, what an incredible record.
Not even his position.
And yeah, literally not even in position. That's an incredible
You moved
start.
out of your position to the hardest position to win man of the match, let alone player of the series. Unbelievable.
What year was that?
2017, when Blues won game one up in thing, and then they were up 16-6 at half time in game two at Sydney, and then Gagai scored two, and then game three killed us.
Fuck. Oh, man, his highlights would be so hectic, I reckon. Just like, think about his body of work, how much footy he's played. Xavier Coates on the wing over Corey Oates. Thoughts on this decision?
Yeah, interesting one. I think Corey Oates has played well enough to be there. I agree with what you said, and I think, you know, I remember 6 weeks ago, Xavier Coates had just arrived in Melbourne. He was going well, and you know, I remember us sitting here with Dora and him talking about Melbourne wingers and the stuff that he's doing, and I was so impressed with Coates at that point. Since then, hasn't played poorly, but he definitely hasn't been at his best.
It's been extremely quiet.
Yeah, and I think defensively, this is where New South Wales will go at them.
Yeah.
I think. I'm trying to work out who's going to be on his edge. Will it be Tupou? If he plays left side, it'll be our right winger. So it'll be Brian Toto and Katoni.
So do you think that he's been selected because of his aerial prowess? Because that's one thing he has continually been good at, like catching crossfield bombs.
He has, yeah. But it's not like Corey Oates is a slob in the air. That's why, I just think Corey Oates coming out of your own end. Xavier Coates, he has improved coming out of his end this year, but he's still not at the level of a Corey Oates.
Corey Oates coming out of his end has been
Corey Oates gets 200 metres a week and his centre doesn't pass him the football.
Hang on, are we certain that Tupou's going to play on the left?
I would assume so.
Right.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Either way. Selwyn Cobbo's good in the air as well. So, like, someone's jumping on top.
Yeah.
Even, like, Toto has proven, like, have you ever seen a game where Toto has just been, like, constantly out-jumped? I really haven't.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this selection is more like a future selection. I think Billy Slater sat down and gone, look, if I get Xavier Coates playing at his best, he can definitely play as good as Corey Oates. We'd all agree there? Xavier Coates at his best can be as good as Corey Oates?
Yeah.
And if I get him in early, I can have him for the next 10 years. Whereas Corey Oates, he's about 29, maybe 30 this year. Could you check that? So I think that Slater has just gone the route of like, look, he's young. We can develop him.
Corey Oates is 27.
27?
Fuck me.
He's been around forever. Okay, that throws a spanner in the works. Yeah, look, Billy must see something that we don't see. Corey Oates, okay. To be fair, though, Corey Oates has had a couple of errors here and there in his game.
Isn't it crazy, like, if Coates was still at the Broncos, one of Corey Oates, Cobbo, or Coates isn't playing first grade. I don't know which one it'd be. I can make a fair argument for all three of them.
What else is like super interesting is when Coates signed for the Storm, it was disaster. Broncos fans were sitting there going, we've lost our best young talent. I cannot believe it. It was disaster. Now Broncos fans are sitting there going,
No one's talking about it.
we are glad we didn't have to pay him a huge contract. And again, that's not to say Coates has gone and played terribly. It's just to say that if we had to pay a massive amount for him, it wouldn't have been good for our salary cap. We just can't afford it right now.
And like Coates, he hasn't been spoken in that same degree of, a Latrell or a GI, but he hasn't been far off it the last few years.
Well, initially, he was right up there.
With those guys,
sure,
and
sure.
I think Corey Oates has done such a good job. Corey Oates has been there and done it before. Mate, I'll be honest, I always look at Corey Oates and think, I always feel like he's close to a drop ball. That's what it's felt like to me for the last 8 years. This year, man, I'm so confident in him that he would do a job there.
Yeah.
But I understand.
Do you think Billy's gone? He's young. We can build him long term.
I think so. Yeah.
I think Xavier Coates can play the same style that Corey Oates can. So I think Billy Slater's backing his ability to coach him up to where he needs to be.
And I think, obviously, Xavier Coates is at Melbourne. Billy's had a bit to do down there.
Yeah.
I think he would have been in constant communication with Craig Bellamy, seeing where he's at. So, it doesn't shock me, but I similar to Fox, I feel sorry for Corey Oates because I think he's done enough to play. But
Interesting. But as I said, I think Xavier absolutely has it in him to have a cracker. And I think that we're not even seeing his potential yet.
And also, he's got it'll be either Gagai or Holmes looking after him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the first 6 games or so, he was really fucking good. And we're all sitting here going, Xavier Coates, wow.
Yeah. We sort of got sidetracked by the wingers and the centres. As a New South Welshman, I know he hasn't played his best footy this year, but KP, whenever he's played Origin, he's played bloody well.
What I can tell you for sure is Billy is excited to work with Caleb.
Mate, you look at what the impact Billy Slater has had on every fullback that's come after him at Melbourne, whether it be Drinky, whether it be Hughesy, whether it be Pappenhausen, you name it, the positive impact he's had on all of them. Give him a couple of weeks with KP. KP might not be playing his best footy, but if you're going to tell me he's not talented, you're fucking kidding yourself.
Mate, to be honest, the footy he's played in a side that's just been nowhere near their best has still been good footy.
Mate, if he gets a Billy Slater that puts his arm around him, which he will, I'm terrified of KP.
I think KP's in for a big series.
So do I.
I really do. I think it's going to be such a breath of fresh air to get away from the current situation of the Knights and to get in. And this is no disrespect to any club players. Matter of fact, I was a club player. I didn't play Origin, so I'll be talking about myself. But Kalen to get around other elite, the best, the tippity top, I think that's just going to just bring him up a bit, just square his shoulders back a bit and go, oh, you know what? I don't have to be the main guy that does everything. I can just fucking enjoy footy.
And I think at Newcastle too, I just think they've really struggled to get him in good spots with the ball. I think, whereas this side, he's just going to be put in so many opportunities with Munster and with DCE. He's just, mate, as I said, as a New South Wales fan, I'm very worried about KP. I think he's going to go on a tear during this series.
Yeah. So, look, I agree with, I would have probably had Corey Oates there, but I don't, it's going to sound, doesn't make sense. I don't disagree with Coates being there. So I agree essentially with every single selection in that back line. Now, Cameron Munster, obviously. Cherry Evans, obviously. Pretty big in. Tino starting front row. Thoughts?
Yeah, this didn't overly surprise me. I don't really think he is a 13, realistically. I think he's just, similar to what we saw 5 or 6 years ago, old school front rowers playing 13. No, not that he's an old school front rower, but I would have picked him in the front row. I thought that in a couple of games that have been just shit fights for the Gold Coast Titans, I think he's always been great. And I thought on the weekend he was fantastic as well, Tino. So this is where I would have picked him personally.
Totally agree. I would have picked him at 8. I think he's an 8, an out-and-out 8. And I think on the weekend he was, yes, he made a couple of, poor decisions, especially that short kickoff. Bro.
But it's ridiculous that he's making those decisions. He's a 21-year-old front rower.
That's crazy. That's you know what? If Fogarty was there, I know we harp on it. Sorry, Titans fans, but if a senior player was in that spine, they would have said, nah, bruh.
If a year ago Fogarty was there, he would have said, what the fuck are you talking about? No. If a year in advance Kieran Foran was there, he would have said no.
He said, bro, no, let's just get down there and defend.
Yeah, that's...
Anyway, I shouldn't even brought that up because outside of that, Tino was outstanding, and he has been yes, he has an error or two in his game, but I think that more comes from trying too hard. because he has to.
Yeah.
Because he's the only guy, not the only guy, but he really is the glue.
But he's
to that
the
side.
guy.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
And he's constantly working. I think he's going to be outstanding for Queensland. Massive congratulations to Tino. And what a credit to him. He's still only 22 years old. Front row for Queensland. Incredible. Now, obviously Josh Papali'i 10, but we've got to talk about it. A huge, clearly tactical call. Ben Hunt wins the starting spot from Harry Grant, who was named at 14. What are your thoughts on Benny Hunt at 9 starting?
I reckon you've been chewing Smithy's ear off just squall. Now, you've been saying this for a couple of weeks, and I would have had Ben Hunt. I would have picked Ben Hunt in the 14 grand, the 9, but now that I'm looking at it, I can see what they're planning on doing. I think it will be a good move. I think, Matty, you got the Dally M count there. How's he travelling?
So he's first, and first by a while. He's on 19 and second's on
He's not
17.
equal first?
He's not equal first. He's outright first.
Who's second?
I'll get it up. I don't know. I'll get it up.
I know we've been saying it for a long time, but fuck, if you...
We've got the Dally M leader in 9.
Yeah. Mate, well, okay, here's a controversial one for you. There's 3 hookers that are going to play next Wednesday night. I think Queensland's got the best 2.
Yeah, form-wise, yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think there's a fair argument that Ben Hunt might be the best of them.
In Origin?
In Origin. Mate, every time he plays for Queensland, I don't care what anyone... Drop ball, 15, so whatever the fuck you want. He is an absolute weapon, and every time in Origin he stands up. He had that one game where he had a shocker where he was forced to play 5'8".
Yeah.
He's not a 5'8". He's a 9. Sometimes he's forced to play halfback and he brains it there. At club level, he's leading the Dally M medal count out of position, in my opinion. When he gets into 9 for Queensland, he absolutely terrorises.
Imagine him around the ruck, how good he's going to be. Like, I think this is a
Especially with
masterstroke.
this pack,
I know,
Tino and Papali and them. I love
Ruben
it.
Cotter working with him around the ruck there. I think it's a masterstroke from Billy. I've been saying this for a while. I just, with Grant, I just think his running game is so good. Let's not take away from it. Let's not make him get through all the shit work, because you know that if Grant does start, you know Freddie's spotting him up to get him tired.
And in the big games that Harry Grant has stood up, which is that Origin game, he came off the pine, he came in late and he dominated. So,
and in the games that he's played poorly, unfortunately, he was starting. Like, he played, Grant, next best hooker, incredible. But he did miss 10 tackles the other weekend in a huge game. And also that prelim game, he did struggle. When they lost Cheese and he kind of lost his bearings a little bit because he didn't have that kind of duo to work with, he struggled a little bit. So his best game has been off the bench. And I think because Harry Grant is destined for greatness, we forget he's still only in his 3rd year of NRL. He's in his 3rd year of NRL. Put it this way, in another 12 months, he's probably going to be ready to go 80 minutes in Origin. But I just think for now, especially with the little injury that he's had as well, he's going to miss a couple of weeks. I think this is a masterstroke from...
I also think when I look at that side, like, I love Harry Grant, but you look at that forward pack, Tino, Papali, Kate Wilkafusi, Cotter, Collins, Carrigan, Nanai. Mate, Ben Hunt has played 1 game of footy of Origin. Like, he hasn't played that much footy with them, those guys, whereas Ben Hunt has been in and around these guys for a very, very long time now. So
he's a leader.
I love the selection.
He's a leader.
He's a
in that
leader.
squad.
He's played with these forwards. He's played with these halves.
Well, look at this spine. Look at this spine. We've got Ben Hunt, Kalen Ponga, Cam Muncher, DCE. Like, that is an Origin experienced spine. Even Kalen Ponga's played a fair few games.
I'm also pretty sure that Ben Hunt's won Queensland Player of the Year 2 years out of the last 3.
Yes, I think he has, actually.
Yeah.
I think he has. And like Kalen, he's been around that Queensland team for what, 3 or 4 years now?
Yep.
So you look at that spine, you go, that's an experienced spine. They've got the spine to get it done if they...
It's funny. People forget Kalen's played 4 Origins, and if you look at those 4 Origins, the first was obviously the debut where he came off the bench. John said it was the best ever debut. The next game was in Suncorp, game 1, where he set up a try with a cutout on the left and a try with a cutout on the right.
And they were talking about him being a better fullback than Teddy.
Yep. The next game was in Perth, so outlier. Then the last game was the decider when they won. So KP's been great in Origin.
I know. I just... It's the double-edged sword with KP because he is the biggest superstar in the game. Unless he is killing it, you're going to forget all the great stuff he's done. And so with this spine, I think the Ben Hunt starting at 9 is a masterstroke. Just think about it just makes you feel safe as a Queenslander. And also, it excites me because I want Harry Grant coming on and just doing what he loves to do. And that's get out, just constantly pester. And then if he gets gassed, boom, bring him straight off and then pull him back on if you need to. So I think it's a masterstroke. And I think it's perfect for Harry's development. He gets a whole nother year learning about Origin, feeling it out. Because everyone knows, we all know Harry Grant's going to be the hooker for Queensland the next, decade, most likely. Unless Reid Marnie's playing some pretty bloody good footy. But I think Harry Grant is going to be hard to take out of that spot.
If for whatever reason, if Ben Hunt was out, injured, suspended, whatever, would you have gone with Reid to start and Harry off bench?
Well, that's a hard one. I think you probably would because you can't bring Reid off the bench. He's got to start. Get him through the tough work. That's a really tough one because I think you're asking the same question in the sense that Reid, you don't know how he's going to go at Origin. Harry, you don't know, is he going to play well 80 minutes in the middle there? So it would be a harder question to answer for me, but because Ben Hunt's so experienced and we know he's going to play good, I think it's a really smart move putting him at 9. And I just think the good thing about Harry and Ben Hunt being at 9 is we have two of the best ball running 9s in the comp. Constantly at you. Like, you cannot escape it. Every set, every moment of the game, you have to be worried about the number 9.
Is there a moment where they're both on the field at the same time?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
I think they go to Ruben, mate, I want you to work your absolute dick off.
Yeah.
If you get tired, we'll bring Harry on and we'll either move Brucey.
He'll get himself knocked out before he's tired.
Yeah, properly. And then I'll just think that they'll rotate Paddy Carrigan and Lindsay Collins through the middle.
Yeah, okay.
I think Paddy Carrigan has been selected as a front rower.
Yep.
Because they've got Harry Grant as a smaller man on the bench. Anyway, we'll get to that. So, I think it's a masterstroke by Queensland. I think Benny Hunt has proven it in Origin. He plays so good at number 9. We've got Kurt Capewell 11, Kafusi at 12, Ruben Cotter at 13 starting. We have to give you flowers, Guru. You said at the start of the season that Cotter would play Origin. Did you say start Origin?
Well, mate, I actually went back and listened to the tape about 1,000 times this morning. You said to me, what do you think? You'll pick him at 13 over Jair? And I said, no, I'd have him on the bench. So I thought he'd be a perfect 17. Mate, I was so fucking high on him. He's exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I think he exceeded it. I thought in a couple of years, and I might have even said that in the thing, I thought maybe in a few years, but I didn't predict him.
Mate, he just needed a good injury run.
Yeah.
He's just tough as nails. I said it a few weeks ago, and yesterday I didn't expect him to be the starting 13, but I think Billy would be looking at him going, this is Dallas Johnson all over. I just need him on the field.
Yeah. I probably would have had Paddy Carrigan as my 13.
So would I. Yep.
But now that I look at it and I go, okay, well, what is Billy thinking? And I go, well, what is the new style of footy? It's high pace. It's around the ruck. It's laterally. You've got to be good. If you're not good laterally around the ruck, you're going to get done. And so what I think Billy has done is gone, I'm going to get a smaller 13 in there to completely patch that place up, so that we're not getting done laterally around the ruck. As soon as they get quick play the balls, we've got a guy in there that is essentially the same size as their smaller outside backs.
Yeah. And
I think a guy like Paddy, if there is one knock on Paddy, is sometimes laterally he can be a bit slower because he's such a big body. So for what you lose in oomph when it comes to running, and Paddy Carrigan's ball running is probably a bit better than Ruben Cotter in my opinion.
Yep.
I think you get that back in laterally defence. Cotter's going to be an absolute. He made 63 tackles, didn't miss one on the weekend.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's an absolute. And I think as well, I agree with you. I think Carrigan's running, he's got a bit more punch to him than Cotter, but I don't think there's a gaping hole between them. I also look at those two edges, and they're the two edges I would have picked, Capewell and Kafusi, but they don't really have that explosiveness on those edges. I personally think Felice is the best defensive back rower in rugby league. I don't think Capewell's all that far behind him either, but I just think that having a Cotter there or a Carrigan, whichever one you went, but I understand the Cotter move. I just think that they need that little bit of extra through the middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, congratulations to Cotter. He's had so many injuries over the last few years. He came through as a hooker. Mate, moved to lock. Now he's a front rower for the Cowboys, and I reckon that's what, over the last few weeks, has made Billy go, he's my guy, because imagine being a hooker and then a year later, they're like, hey, you're going to play front row.
Yeah.
Can you make us 60 tackles and get belted through the middle? And he just goes, yeah, fuck it, give me a jersey. Let's go.
And I totally agree. And I think what is good about Ruben Cotter is he represents what Queensland's about. You're small, but you're a fucking battler. You punch above your weight, and you go all day long. Like, there's a never say die attitude. And sometimes you just need the heartbeat of your team. And as you said, like a Dallas Johnson, they're not going to get the raps that KP get, Munster gets, Selwyn Cobbo, but they're the heartbeat.
You want them in the trenches with you.
You want them in the trenches. You know there's not a single person in that entire squad that wouldn't want Cotter beside them. In the 75th minute, on their line, New South Wales is coming in.
And you know what? If Cotter was a foot taller, he might not have that same impact.
Yeah.
But there is something about him being that body shape that he is, that he plays so far above his weight.
I just think cattle dog when I see him.
Yeah, mate, 100%.
I think cattle dog. And I know that's a New South Wales call, but I think that. I just think a little fucking mongrel.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that he would have been as good as 2022 as he would have been in 1980.
Yeah.
He would have been as respected in that entire time, which I love about him.
Yep. So I think it's a really, really good selection by Billy. What's interesting is it's probably in both sides. There's really only one selection we probably disagree with, and that's probably Coates for Queensland over Oates and Crichton starting instead of, because I think we agreed that Whiten was going to get that centre position.
Yeah.
Probably Crichton over Hines for 14. So it shows you that there's not that much, difference between most people's expectations as to who would get selected.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm personally, I think I'm just on Team Crichton ahead of Hines. Personally, I know I'm probably in the minority.
So you do agree with Crichton at 14?
I agree with Crichton at 14.
To cover all those positions.
Just that 2020 series is just ringing in the back of my head.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And you reckon Freddie's thought that too?
Freddie saw that too, and because of that whole thing where he's come onto the field, he's won the moment a few times last year in the finals. Yeah, so I'm Team Crichton.
I can see that logic. Like, that makes sense to me. So like it's not like I can sit here and say, well, I mean, we don't know whether it's right or wrong because we're going to find out.
Can I ask Matty? If you're happy with Crichton at 14, would Whiten have been your pick in the centres?
No. So I would have liked Crichton at centre, but I'm not kicking stones over that at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Not much of a difference anyway, really.
What about the Coates one? Would we all have picked Oates instead of Coates for now? Or we're all okay with Oates?
I probably would have picked Corey Oates, but my gap between Oates and I'm not as upset by that decision.
Yeah.
I understand where Billy's going with that one.
Yeah, no, I'd say that. Like, I agree. I would have picked Oates. Now, that may be a Broncos bias in me, though. Like, it may be because I watch both games, but I watch Broncos more intently. No, actually, I don't. I watch them I take notes, so actually, I watch them all. But I agree with you too. I don't think there's that much of a gap between,
which is why I don't have a huge issue with it. And I think if Xavier Coates was at any other club, I reckon Corey Oates probably gets picked.
Yeah, it's a good point. I do think that what's interesting is Coates and Oates have a very Coates is probably a little bit bigger, but they're kind of a similar body shape.
Yeah,
big, rangy players, but. But really, they're our only points of contention at the moment so far with the squads.
Yeah.
And is there anyone else that stood out for you so far?
Maybe Angus Crichton missing out.
Yeah, you know what? I probably would have had him on my bench at the very least.
I've got one more in this team, which we'll touch on.
Okay, all right, we'll get to the bench. So we got Harry Grant at 14. We got Lindsay Collins at 15, Patrick Carrigan. And was it you that I brought up Nanai? Or was it HSP that I brought up Nanai and they were like, way too young. Anyway, I thought Nana was a smoky, but then I got kind of talked out of it. But Nana gets selected. Thoughts?
This is the one guy that I think this weekend he played himself into that team. Okay. He made 51 tackles for the Cowboys last weekend.
I didn't know that.
Mate, 8 weeks ago we were sitting here going, he made 25, but he missed 10.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to work on. I think for Nanai, them playing the Panthers last week might have been a little blessing. I don't think before last weekend he was going to be in the side, to be honest with you.
Yep. Okay.
Personally, he wasn't in my team if I was going to pick it.
He wasn't in my team yesterday, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But they've picked him on the same logic they've picked Cobbo.
Yeah.
So you can't really debate it that much, can you?
Would you have picked him?
I really like Jairo in Origin.
So do I. I think Jairo is very hard done by. Yeah. But
Honestly,
yeah.
I would have waited a year.
Yeah.
I know I said he was a smoky. I probably just would have waited one more year. I just think that, I don't know, I would have gone Arrow or Flegler off the bench. Probably Arrow. I like him at Origin. He's a mongrel. He gets amongst it. And I think Nanai, he's going to play Origin for sure. No one can deny that. You know, my concern is if he comes on and let's say his first run doesn't go that great, is he going to have the confidence to just keep going? He probably will because he's a gun. Look, no one's wrapped Nano more than me, but maybe just a year too early. Maybe.
Waited. Yeah. I think that his game against Penrith pushed him in
because 51 tackles on an edge is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the Cowboys game, but the ironic thing about that is they were soundly beaten, absolutely dominated. But I still believe the Cowboys can take a lot of positives out of that, a heap away from that game. I think two things. Actually, we'll get to it.
But yeah, I think his game on the weekend has pushed him into that side.
Yeah, so look, massive congratulations to Nanai. Now, I think to be clear for both of us, we're not saying he doesn't deserve to be there at all. He has played outstanding this season. I think it's more just the age we're a bit worried about.
And also, we're not really used to Queensland. This is probably the only example of them not picking and sticking. I know Jairo missed the game 3 last year, but I guess that's a bit of a shock too.
I think the worry, not the concern, but maybe that what's gone against Arrow is just the form at the Rabbitohs. And, you know, at the Titans when he was playing, he stood out every week in a bad side. Whereas at the Rabbitohs, he's still having some impact for sure, but he's not playing great in a bad side. And I think that may have hurt his, case a bit.
Was Mo Fodawaker available for selection?
I think so.
I thought he was your best forward last year.
He did the ankle, didn't he?
By the way, I forgot to bring up, NRL Physio is reporting that Fafita's out for 3 weeks. David Fafita.
What?
Yeah.
With what?
It's his very, very minor injury to his MCL that he just injured.
So he redid it?
Yeah, in a very minor way, yeah.
Well, 3 weeks isn't minor.
2 to 3, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So is that saying they rushed him back?
Yeah, very possibly, yeah, sure.
Wow,
yeah.
wow.
Let me get the exact tweet.
I personally don't think there is anything that Fafita could have done on Friday night to get into this team. Might be controversial.
No, I agree. I think that just match fitness. I think he needed a few games under his belt.
I think he could have come out and had one of his 3 try performances and still not made this team.
Okay, so NRL Physio is saying that it's a low velocity aggravation of the recent sprain. However, re-injury risk for MCL sprains is low, mostly a contact injury in nature, so a bit of bad luck for Fafita.
So just bad luck.
Yeah.
Okay. I do know Billy was very gun-ho on match fitness of picking a side that had got a lot of matches under their belt, unless they're, a full-blown veteran, had a lot of matches under their side, because Queensland kind of felt last year that was their biggest mistake. It was picking players that hadn't played in a long time and match fitness, whereas this year, you go through this team, I think most of them have played at least 80% of the games this season.
But, I mean, are there any of these, are there any guys that they could have brought in that haven't played? I mean, obviously Fafita's one of them.
Well, Fafita, Moe Fodawaker, he's injured.
I reckon Mo Fodawaker's, I know he's injured, but it felt like he was a little bit on the outer a few weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought he was your best forward last year.
Oh, he was our best forward in definitely game 1. He was definitely the best forward game 1.
I thought that 2020 series, he was incredible too, the one that you won.
Yeah, the positive for Queensland, though, is that most of the 18 have played most of the season, or the 17. But yeah, massive congratulations to Jeremiah Nanai. Again, it's kind of like the Selwyn Cobbo situation. Even if they don't go out and play well, they're still. We know they're going to be there in the future. So stick with them. I think that they'll. I think they'll do a job though.
Would you have picked Lindsay Collins on the bench?
I would have almost gone Lindsay starting, and the only reason why I wouldn't have is because he's been in and out with injury this year. I would pick Lindsay Collins on the bench. What about yourself?
Okay. Yeah, I was a bit worried that he could be a guy. I wouldn't have been surprised to see him miss and Flegler get that spot. I just think Collins, he's done the job before, no doubt about it. Coming off an ACL, I think that he's been good for the Roosters without being great. I just thought that going up to that pace of Origin might have been a bit much.
Do you think Flegler is a little bit of a risk with, he does tend to give away, penalties and that?
Yeah.
Put on a report and shit.
No doubt about it, yeah. In saying that, I thought that Jairo probably would have been in. I thought Jairo would have been in this team. I think I probably would have had him before Lindsay as well.
See, I think Flegler is going to be perfect for Origin. I think he suits it. Like, I know that he gets put on report, but he's so fucking aggressive. And that's what you want in Origin. As long as it's controlled.
And let's be honest here, Origin isn't the same.
You don't get anywhere near the same.
It's not the same. It's looked at differently. Whether it should or shouldn't be, whatever, it is.
Yeah. So congratulations to Selwyn. Congratulations to Nanai. You've absolutely earned that jersey. We can absolutely say that Selwyn Cobbo and Nanai have earned every piece of that jersey. So congratulations to the boys. Xavier Coates obviously debuted already. Who else are we talking debutant? Massive congratulations to Ruben Cotter, another man. What I love about all three of these selections is that they've all had to face some kind of adversity to get that jersey. Like Selwyn Cobbo, good example, superstar in the making, has a couple of bad games, has to turn it around. Ruben Cotter gets put out of position, turns around, turns it into his position. Jeremiah Nanai, defensively at the start of the year, a bit suspect, turns it all around, also a teenager. So great stuff by the boys. Thoughts on the great Tom Dearden at 18?
Well, mate, I reckon this is one of the great, to think,
One of the great turnarounds.
Not only did the Broncos feel like they didn't need him last year, they didn't want him.
Didn't even offer him a contract.
Didn't even bother. Yeah, he got treated like he came in as the next Alf. It wasn't that long ago that he was going to be the next thing. Brisbane, and granted, they've made the right call. They've got Reynolds in there. It's worked for them. But he's gone up to North Queensland, a team that...
To be fair, though, Dearden and Reynolds would be a fucking great combination.
For sure.
And they could have afforded to keep him as well.
Yeah, but... And respectfully to you, would Dearden have become the same player in... I just think he was stuck in a bad spot.
I think too much damage was done, for
he
sure.
became the scapegoat, and it is what it is. He's gone up to North Queensland, a team that I thought would really struggle. Off the back of him and Chad, they've done incredibly well.
Well, just back to that point with the Broncos, I actually think that those few years stunted a lot of their growth, and we're only seeing their growth happen now.
Yep.
Think about all these young forwards. They're only just turning into the forwards they need to be. And that's after a year and a half of Kevy's, the whole new system being brought in. When you look at that whole pack coming through those couple of years, I think you could argue nearly every single player, growth was stunted.
Yep.
That's
fair.
Whereas Dearden, it's a year and a half since Dearden essentially had left. Now he's finally coming through it and finding himself, you know what I mean?
And I think as well, it stunted the growth of some of those forwards, stunting the growth of a front rower compared to a halfback.
Oh.
You're miles apart there.
Massively.
Miles apart.
So what were we saying then before I cut you off? Sorry.
I've lost it. But I just think it's a great knock by Dearden to be, one man out of a Origin. I mean, if DC or Munster was injured, does Dearden play? Or do they go for a Brimo? Do they move Ben Hunt into the half? I reckon if Munster went down, I reckon they'd consider Dearden. If DCE went down, you play Hunt. But
what do you reckon this says about Sammy Walker? Because if you said at the start of the season, Tom Dearden is going to be selected as 18th man before Sam Walker, people would have said you're off your head.
Oh, for sure. But I think this season, I think he's earned that opportunity.
Sam Walker's. I think he's leading Roosters in the Dally M.
Yeah, but I think Dearden's played better this year, to be honest with you.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think he has. Yeah, I think he's a better defender too, and I just think he's a little bit more suited to Origin at the moment. He takes on the line more. So I'm all for this Dearden pick. Whether Sam Walker gets picked tomorrow or in 2 years, he's going to be a gun. He's going to be here eventually.
Because the reason why I bring up Sam Walker is Dearden it seems like he's a 6. And Munster isn't going anywhere soon. Whereas Sam Walker is a 7. Well, I know he's currently playing 6, but probably
He's
a 7.
Yeah.
So would it be more prudent to bring him into the squad because DCE will most likely retire before Munster? And again, this is not my opinion. This is just questions. That
I reckon they'd also be looking at Dearden going, if something was to happen to Ben Hunt, obviously Harry Grant's carrying an injury into this. I think he could be a good 14 as well. Okay. I'd rather carry him as a extra 9 than I would carry Sammy Walker.
Yeah. What was that? What were you going to say, Matty?
No, I was just going to bring up Dearden before. So he had that, I don't want to bring this up, but he had that really long streak of not winning games at halfback. It was 20-something. Since he broke that streak last August, while starting in the halves at halfback or 5'8", he's won 9 of 13 games.
Far out. And he was literally... Didn't Fox for that something put up like a thing of like how many games he'd lost?
Yeah,
in
it was
row?
a graphic. It was
fun.
shocking, but like it had all these L's and whatever. Then he won one game at the back end of last year, and ever since then it's 9 from 13.
Fox is so interesting because I mean I say this ad nauseum, but like they have great content. It's just like little things like if you got rid of like just the little things like that, and then obviously some other stuff, they'd be like not perfect, but they'd be great. They'd be great. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. I just think that too many people are quick to go, Fox is shit, everything about him shit. It's like some of our favourite shows are on Fox, like Matty Johns, Brian Fletcher and Hindy. You know, Cooper Cronk's analyst is unbelievable. Matty Johns and Cooper Cronk is fantastic.
And even the shows that a lot of people don't like 360, like 360 is exactly what it tells you it is. You know what you're going there for. And if you're shocked when you get there, that's on you.
Yeah, you know what you're getting with that one. But yeah, and also like I like some of the pre-game interviews they do, and like some of the stuff Yvonne was doing, and then you've got Hannah Hollis there. Yeah. And the same with Nine as well.
Did you see the Fox Sports Indigenous round promo video? Oh. It was. I said to my housemate that it's the best video I've ever seen on Fox.
I think it was.
And so you know what I mean. Like, there's all those little things that I think we kind of take for granted a little bit. That we just assume, because I don't like one part of it, all of it. But I think they do some really good stuff. And the same with Nine too. I actually think that Nine have improved drastically the last couple of years. I think they've got great talent. I think although the name of the show 100% Footy is like. So bad. The actual show itself is fantastic. Yeah. Like I really like it. Anyway, back to the thing on hand. Is there anyone else in here? Congratulations to Flegler in the squad, Hamiso and Talangi being brought in. Anything
he's
else?
the one I want to talk about. Murray. Yeah. What a good effort.
Yeah.
Like if you would have shown me a Cowboys 1-7 at the start of the year and he wasn't in it, you probably wouldn't have been shocked.
Yep.
Realistically. Where he's come from.
And he had flashes last year. He had these flashes where you go, I can see it. Big, relatively big winger, good finisher, great ball runner, good footwork. But this year, he's been out, like, he is really
the
turned
guy
up.
above him handled Tom Trbojevic, like hammer handled Turbo in game 3 of last year. We just spent the last 6 weeks going, how do we get Hammer in this team? We can't drop Murray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, credit to him. I think it's good to see Hammer there as well. I think that's a good one from Billy Slater.
So we've looked at the both two squads. Actually, is there anyone else that you thought Queensland hard done by?
No, outside of that, those few there, I think Arrow's probably the hardest done by out of all of them. But the rest of it, I'm pretty happy with. And even the guys that I wouldn't have picked that he has, I understand why he's done it, and he's kind of won me over on a few too.
Yeah. I think that the one that's going to surprise a lot of people is the Benny Hunt and Harry Grant at 14. But I think they've got a specific...
The more you think about it, the more it makes sense.
Yeah, the more it makes sense. I think a few weeks ago, people were like, Harry Grant's a lock, an absolute lock in that 9 position. But when you look at Ben Hunt's body of work at Origin and you see what he's done at 9, you get it.
So if Fafita was fully fit, do you think he would have been in this side?
Man, probably. Yeah, I think he probably... Nanai, probably...
Nanai.
Yeah.
If Mo Fotuaika is fully fit, do you think he's in this side?
Probably not. Oh, it'd be between him and Lindsay.
NRL.com have Mo Fotuaika back round 13, which is this week, with an ankle injury. So
because he didn't play on the weekend.
He didn't play on the weekend.
No, he didn't. Yeah.
And fitness is a big key component this year in selections. But outside of that, okay, we've seen both squads. Would you have it? What percentage would you have one winning and the other one losing right now?
Honestly, the only thing that separates them for me is that it's at Sydney. If this was at Suncorp, I would take Queensland. In Sydney, I'm going to take the Blues. I think also in New South Wales, when you're playing at Sydney this time of the year, it's always a dewy, close game. Kicking game is going to be super important. They've got the best kicker in the world for me, Nathan Cleary. I think it's going to be super important. And I do like the pack that New South Wales have picked. I like the guys that are going to be coming off the bench, like your Brian Madison, these sort of guys, the leg speed. And, as I said, if it was in Queensland, if game 1 was in Perth, I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do.
Flip a coin, which way I'd go. But I'm going to say New South Wales, but I'm far from confident because I think Queensland have picked a good side. They're all in form. There's no one there that they've picked that's probably the one that I would say is maybe the most out of form. You can maybe say is KP, but I don't think he's playing as badly as what people want to tell you.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And I know he's going to deliver on this big stage. I have no doubt about it. So, New South Wales, solely because it's in Sydney. Where do you sit?
Well, ask Matty first. Where do you sit after seeing these two squads?
I'm still New South Wales, obviously. I think, and look, it's Origin, so there's bias. I'm going to put that on the table. But at the end of last year, after we won Game 2, I was like, we're going to win the next 10 in a row. Game 3 last year, Queensland beat New South Wales, 20-18. I think it was in Gold Coast.
It was on the Gold, yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking, I mean, Queensland shouldn't have got near us that game, and they won, so that was a little bit concerning. Now, but I was still confident. Now with Turbo and Latrell dropping out, like that was player 1 and player 2, or played 2 of our top 3 players last year. And Safiti's out of form, Daniel, but I still reckon he would have got picked because he was the Blues' best player in 2020 and our best forward last year, in my opinion. 3 big losses, I reckon. So it's going to be closer than we think, but I agree. I reckon Perth is going to be the decider. I reckon Blues will win Game 1 because it's in Sydney. I think Blues have only won 4 something deciders in Suncorp. So, yeah, I'll tip the Blues for Game 1, but it's going to be, if it's close, then fuck, Game 2 in Perth is going to be a cracker.
Mate, I'll give my answer after this. We are in every single Celebrations, Bottle O, Porter's Liquor and IJ Plus Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. Plus, we are $52 in every Bottle O in New South Wales, and I'm going to do the 12 stores. In Spotlight, Cronin's Liquor Gerringong, Page Bottler ACT, Camperdown Cellars in Bronte and Darlinghurst, Charlie's Liquor Barn, all stores, Super Cellars Werribee, Victoria, Blaxland Cellars. Blaxland Cellars have been with us from the day dot, so go and support Blaxland Cellars. Yoronga Cellars, Reef Gateway Early Beach, Club Hotel Roma, Harry Brown's Booville, Spa and Mascot, Helene Supermarket in Burwood. Now, I think a key for victory for Queensland is absolutely DCE needs to just lay the platform for Munster. I think he needs to know that he's not playing at Manly where he needs to be very dominant and do all the big plays in that. I think he needs to just lay the foundation and allow Munster to, because if DCE thinks he needs to be the same kind of player that he is at Manly, you've got too many chefs in the kitchen or whatever. Like, I just think that Munster and him will clash. I think DCE, and I think Billy will make it pretty clear to DCE, I just need you to use your massive kicking game, get us around the park. Then when we're getting good ball, whatever Munster needs and wants, just get him the ball. That's the key to victory. I personally think going into Game 1, I just think it's 50-50. Like, I really think it's 50-50. And I think that at the start of this year, most people would have thought New South Wales are going to win the next 3 series. They just had too many generational talents playing at one. You know, you could argue Teddy's one of the greatest fullbacks of all time. You could argue Tommy is one of the greatest friggin' players ever, had one of the best years. You could argue Latrell, one of the best outside backs of all time. I think as Queensland's team's form has gone up, on top of that with the injuries in New South Wales, I think it's 50-50.
But mate, I agree. I remember sitting there last year and everyone telling me New South Wales aren't going to win a series for X amount of time. They're going to blow everyone out of the park. This is what happens in Origin. This is exactly what happens. Everything evens up in Origin. You take out that team that had, in my opinion, 4 to 5 immortals in their team, and there's a bee's dick between them over 30 years' time. Yeah, this is I think all New South Wales fans got a little bit carried away at the end of last year, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was. It was a record win, and they're building some great things. But I just think that I don't think people expected Queensland teams to improve this quickly over such a short period of time. Mate, with the change in rules too, like those rules were so suited to the New South Wales side last year. Yeah, you played on far. We went up to North Queensland. It was it was in Queensland, but it was a fast track. Yeah, Gold Coast was the same. Like I reckon they're the 2 best bits of turf to play rugby league on if you're going to play fast. Also, second is Storm, third is Cowboys, fourth is Broncos. All Queensland dominated teams. Yeah, in the NRL right now. So that obviously helps Queensland. Their players are in form in winning teams. It's I just can't believe how quickly the Queensland teams have improved. Like, we're talking about teams with friggin' 14th and 15th last year. They're now in the top 3, the top 4, and it's halfway through the year. Anyway, now on to team of the week for the week. Now, with the match reviews, we'll probably be a bit shorter just because obviously we just had that massive segment for Origin. We don't want to be here for 6 or 7 hours. I know you guys probably fall asleep listening to us. So the review of each game we'll try to streamline it a little bit. Now, my team of the week. Tedesco at fullback, Simonson on the wing, Herbie in the centres. Tuala, I thought he was great for the Knights.
Alex Johnson on the wing for Rabbitohs was outstanding. Really hard selection, this one, but I chose Brown just pipping Munster only because Munster's been there and done it. Like, we know Munster's the man. We know he's a gun. He's incredible. Whereas Brown, he's still only 21 years old. Like, this guy is still only 21 years old. And I don't think Eels win that game without Brown on the field. So Brown gets to 6, but special mention Munster. At 7, I had Mam. Now, I picked Mam because of everything around it. Like, it's his second game of NRL. It's a derby. He had a try assist, a try. It's Indigenous round. A year ago, he was literally doing the pre-ceremony for Indigenous round.
How crazy. I had no idea of that until you posted it.
Crazy,
That's unbelievable.
Incredible.
That's one of the great rugby league stories.
Oh, he's doing the pre-game ritual.
From entertainment to halfback.
Then he becomes the halfback and helps lead him to a victory. I also thought, yes, he had a few missed tackles, and Fafita bumped him off once, but I thought his defence was actually really bloody good. There was a few times where Mam tackled Fafita one-on-one. So I had Mam at 7, just because of the whole circumstance, everything around the game. You know, this is a Broncos team that's 6 in a row without Reynolds. 2 of the games have been without Reynolds. Then I had Fisher Harris at 8, Cook at 9, Cotter at 10, Kickow at 11, Frizzell at 12, Carrigan at 13. I had Milford at 14. I think Milford's been really good. I really do. Yes, he ran out of gas a bit, but that's to be expected. Tino at 15, Clemmer at 16, Cody Walker at 17, and Edwards at 18.
This is good. Our teams are pretty different for a lot of it. I had Teddy at fullback, AJ on one wing. I went with Daniel Tupou on the other side. I thought he was great against Cronulla. My centres were Herbie and Campbell Graham. Up front, in the halves, I went Luke Keary at 6, mate. I thought that he was great for the Roosters. Thought it was his best game in a long time. 7, I was torn between Ezra, as you said, or Mitch Moses. I thought he came up with a couple of really good plays for power in that game. My front row, I had Rhea Hargraves and Cotter. I had Api Curacao in the 9. I thought his first half was incredible for the Panthers. Should have led to more points. Angus Crichton and Sean Lane in my back row with Isaiah Yeo at 13. And then my bench, I went Munster, Murray, Nanai, and I went Big Tino.
Big Tino. Now, we've got to talk about it. Payne Haas.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't... The release request dropped after our show last week, so we haven't spoken about it. Before I say anything, let me get your unfiltered thoughts on the Payne Haas situation.
Yeah, I think Brisbane are doing the right thing. I wouldn't be paying him over what they're paying him and what it's reported. That $1 million price tag, in my opinion, if you pay that for a front rower, you ain't winning a comp. It's too much money to invest there. I do think that Brisbane have stood next to Payne through a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that, wasn't a great reflection on their club and franchise, who the Broncos are and what they stand for. So Broncos fans, I do feel really sorry for them, and I understand why they're upset. I do understand it also from Payne's perspective that if you can get the most money you can, you want to get it. I understand that, but I think that there has to be a bit of loyalty to the club. In saying that, if Payne does 2 ACLs over the next year, he's not going to get any fucking loyalty from anyone if he starts playing shit. So there is 2 sides to the coin there. I don't know. I don't go for a team. So for me, when I was watching them boo him the other night, I understand where Broncos fans are coming from. I did almost feel a bit sorry for Payne to some extent, but I'm not like you. I don't have a team that I go for. So I'm very keen to hear your perspective on it. But yeah, I think Brisbane, they have made the right decision. I would not be paying him more than what he's on. I think he's going to be a massive loss. I think he'll be a huge loss because he is a front rower that can do things that other front rowers can't do. But, and from talking to yourself and a few other guys over the weekend, he has been doing stuff that other front rowers can't do for the last 2 years, and you've come bottom 4 twice. Yes, you're improving this year, but I think a part of it is because of the guys that are around him that are playing out of their skin, your Carrigans, your Fleglers, your Corey Jensens, these sort of guys. But I still feel like he's the alpha in that team, and when you take him out, I think it is going to be a big loss for Brisbane. They aren't defined by one guy, but I think they really are going to miss him. But I still, despite how much I think you'll miss him, I'm not paying a front rower $1 million. I'm not paying a back rower $1 million. I wouldn't pay Isaiah Yeo $1 million, and I think he's the best 13 in rugby league. That money needs to be reserved for your halves, your sixes, your fullbacks, your hookers. in my opinion.
What do you think, Matty?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It obviously blew me away when I saw it. I think it was Thursday, just after captain's run, when the news dropped. Yeah, it's hard because, like, you never want to see anyone get booed, but, like, I kind of see where the fans are coming from. But I also feel sorry for Haas at the same time. Now, this is a conspiracy theory, but it's not wild because it's been thrown around a bit. Could this mean if they are willing to get rid of Haas, if he wants to leave, even if they have to keep him for the next year or two, could that lure Cameron Munster to the Broncos?
We'll get to that.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. But that was my immediate thought because I don't know enough about the situation and like contracts and stuff, but like it's hard because normally if a player doesn't want to be there, you just let him go. But like Payne Haas is a generational player. You can't just let him go. So the Broncos playing hardball right now is definitely the right thing to do. 100%.
Yeah, man. I'm so torn because you've got the guy that worked his whole life to become a professional athlete, to put that jersey on, and that jersey means so much to me. And so to see someone, wanting to walk away from that, even though you're already on $750,000, like I think the big discrepancy for me is like we aren't talking about a rookie that's on minimum wage and he should be $1 million. We're talking about a rookie that signed a long deal a few years ago, started playing really well. Now remember, when he signed that deal, you sign long deals for a little bit less because of the security it gives you. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. So he got the benefit of that security. Anyway, the club came out. They want an upgrade. The Broncos upgraded Payne Haas without having to. They didn't need to do that, but they did it because they all saw where he was coming from. He did deserve to be paid more. And I think everyone agrees he should have been upgraded. He gets upgraded and then comes out again and, well, not him, his management come out and say that he wants more. And so to be really clear, we're not talking about a minimum wage guy that's getting paid $600,000 less than what he should be getting paid. He is currently on what some would consider market value, $750,000. Next year will be $800,000. And so when I look at it just like that, I go, bro, you're willing to, not you're willing. I've got to say this first. Payne Haas is 22 years old. When I was 21 years old, my manager picked me up, I think when I was like 17 or whatever. When my manager told me that this was the way to go or this to do things, I just listened to it. Like I just listened to it because I'm 21 years old. I don't know. Like I'm young. Like you appeal to authority. We have to all remember, like, what were you like when you were 22 years old? And you had this huge decision to make, and someone in a position of authority that's a grown man, that has a family, they have kids, they have a couple of houses, they've got their whole life set up, is telling you this is the right decision.
I never had to make decisions like this, obviously, but the minor ones I had to make, I shit the bed constantly, as did every other bloke that I know at that
22
age.
years old.
Yes.
Matty, when you were 22 years old, if you had an experienced guy that's managed a bunch of other people that was saying this is the way we should do things, you would be like, okay, yep, sweet, correct?
I'm 27 now, and I'd probably be in the same boat. Yeah, honestly,
because you appeal to authority. Like he knows what he's doing. He's 45, 50 years old. This is his job. It's a coach tells you to play a certain way. You listen to the coach. You do it. So I think what we have to kind of do is we have to find the balancing act between, at the end of the day, this man is representing Haas. So this is Haas's decision ultimately, even though some empathy has to be given to Haas because he's so young that like these are older men making decisions, or older company or whoever it is making decisions for him, and he's trusting that they're doing the right thing. And so I think that with that all out of the way, when you see all of it, I would, if I'm speaking to Haas just one-on-one as mates or as an ex-player speaking to a current player, I would be saying to him, bro, over $100,000, like you're willing to say you don't want to be at this club over $100,000. Is that really what you want your name out there associated with? I don't think Haas would want that. And that's why I want to make it really clear that, yes, ultimately this is Haas's decision. But this is where managers, in my opinion, can sometimes do the wrong thing by their player. And I don't think they predicted how hurt Broncos fans would be when they found out this was coming out. I think the management saw it as a negotiation tactic of like, you've got a generational talent. You might lose him if you don't upgrade him, instead of actually sitting back and going, how does this hurt Payne Haas's reputation to the fans? And I think that although it's never good to see fans booing one of their own players, they have every right to, because they're paying members. They get to express themselves. But I think that, unfortunately, Payne has had to suffer the consequences of his management's tactics. Now, this doesn't absolve Payne Haas of, it's his decision ultimately. But we have to, when you put it in context, this is a 22-year-old man being told by his management this is the way to do things. And now he has suffered the consequences of a stadium booing him because they all think that Payne Haas is the one that is, making these choices. And at the end of the day, he is. But within the right of, broader, when you look at it from bird's eye view and take everything into context, this is a young man trusting other people to take care of business.
When I look at it, I think the timing is very strange. If you're looking to get more money out of the Broncos, why would you pick the moment when they won 6 games in a row and all the other forwards are playing really well?
I think they're scared the money's going to go to other places. That's what I think.
Yeah, I just, it almost seems like such a dumb sort of time to do it that I almost wonder if he maybe just is looking for an out there, if maybe they knew what the action was going to be like.
That's what I was going to get into. Like, I can't imagine for the life of me, over a couple $100,000,
I don't think it's worth it. That's what I don't get.
That's what I'm not getting either.
It's almost like they knew what... I almost feel like they knew the domino effect this was going to cause, and hopefully the Broncos were going to go.
But Payne Haas has literally come out and said, I want to stay. And also, I've spoken to people that know Haas. The boys absolutely love him. Love him. And that's why I'm trying to separate Haas from his management. So people need to get that Haas is loved by the playing group. He's loved by the coaching staff. And I think it's one of two things. It's either this has been created because there's other reasons that we don't know about and they want to move on. Because apparently it's also come out that they wanted clauses in the contract saying that if they drop out of the top 6 or whatever, he can leave, which is insane. Like, that's insanity. So one of two things. They want to move on and this is the way to make that happen. Or the management has done something and it's kind of out of Haas's control. And yes, I understand it technically is because they work for him, but the power dynamic is very different to what people think. And they've made a decision thinking it's the right decision and it's actually backfired and made Haas look like the bad guy. When I think the management might have thought the fans will be understanding on his side, like this big bad club isn't paying him. Because a lot of the quotes from sources were, he just wants to get paid what he deserves. And I think the management may have misread the room and fans have gone, they think fans might have gone, well, yeah, he should be on $1 million. He's incredible. And the fans have gone, hang on a sec, like, bruh, you're literally saying you want to release. We love you. And I think just to express to, like, if I was his mate speaking to Haas, I'd be like, the reason why the Broncos fans were booing you is because they care. You were the guy. Through the darkest times in the club's history, you were their guy. Like, when everyone put shit on the Broncos, everyone was talking shit. Every single Broncos fan would go, but you don't have Payne Haas. He's going to be the guy. And then for him to come out and say he doesn't want to be a part of the club, the fans are going to be hurt. Like, they're going to be hurt. My personal opinion, if I was speaking to Haas, I would honestly say, and this is, people are going to think that, I'm just coping with it or whatever and just making up reasons to why it'd be okay for him to leave. But I would honestly say to him, I say, mate, if that 100 or 200K means that much to you now, you should go somewhere else and you should play somewhere else. I truly believe that. I personally don't think he wants to leave. I personally think that his management has just made a big play and it hasn't worked out the way the management thought. I think another part of this we have to remember is that, a lot of young men from similar upbringings like Payne Haas, sometimes a lot of their money goes to family members and they help other people in their family live. I'm not saying that I know this for sure with Payne, but it is a factor that a lot of young Polynesian boys do deal with, where they send money back home or they send money to family members that are in need. So when you sit there and go, well, what's an extra 100,000 or 200,000? That extra 100,000 or 200,000 can help a family member maybe. We don't know. So that is something to consider. I don't know whether it is the case in a Payne situation, but honestly, if that truly means that much to him, he should go to another club, get that $1 million, and do his thing.
I think from a fan perspective, and, as you said, a lot of people don't understand that relationship between players and managers, how different it is. And I agree with you. Like, I don't think I have a complete understanding of it, because me as a fan, and I'm sure Matty could probably back it up, as most
It feels
fans,
like you work for them. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, okay, right. Well, as a fan, though, and a lot of fans I've spoken to, I think the way they're seeing it is that Payne is greedy now, wanting all this money.
Yep.
They look back on things that he's done over the last few years, and I think it paints a picture that he's a bad egg. I think that's how a lot of people see it.
Yeah.
Really, true or false, whatever. I think that's how people see it.
What my experience is, anyone that I've known who's dealt with Payne, he's really respectful.
Yep.
Speaks extremely highly of Kevy, loves the club, and loves the players. And that's why I can't square away this decision.
And mate, I've had, I reckon, 4 interactions with him across social media. They've all been positive. So positive.
Yeah.
That even when he does get in trouble off the field, I'm sort of like, fuck, that surprises me.
Yeah.
And now that this is all playing out the way it is, it really, as you made a good point before, if you put yourself in his shoes at 22, fuck, it's a
tough call. And your
spot.
management this is their job. It's like this. Let's say you started an Instagram page. Yeah. And I was going to manage you, and I've got all this experience and all this runs on the board, and I'm going, look at all the stuff I've done. And I said to you, mate, this is what you need to do. You would almost just go, okay, yep, sweet, because you're the guy that knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even though I disagree with what you just told me, I'm going to take your advice because you appeal to authority. Like, you're sitting there going, well, you know what you're doing, bro, so I'm going to trust that you know what you're doing. Unfortunately, I don't think it was the right move by his management, and I don't think that the hit to his legacy and reputation, because now Payne is in the crazy position. If he does walk away from the club, his reputation will be tarnished for minimum 5 years. He will never, because it's compared to the Sonny Bill situation, because Sonny Bill, he wanted an upgrade. Yeah. They wouldn't give it to him, rah. But it is a little bit different, because I'm pretty sure Sonny was on a much smaller contract. We're talking about a bloke that's currently on $750,000.
Mate, you said if he leaves, it's going to take a few years. If he stays, how long is it going to take to rebuild? Still, Can he stay? Do you think he can?
Yeah, I absolutely think he can stay.
Yeah?
Because they can spin it, or not spin it, maybe it's the truth of, that was my manager, they did the wrong thing. I never told them to go and do that. Of course, I was negotiating for more money. And I also think that Payne Haas's attitude on the field, if he stays, can erase that, because he plays with his heart every single week, and there's no denying that. That's one thing you can't deny. What do you got?
Can I say as well, he's also, what would help him with his teammates, and I've dealt with Payne under 18 camp, under 20 camp, I'm just echoing, but it's so respectful, loved by his teammates. I have never, don't have a bad word to say about him. He was absolutely fantastic to deal with when he was a kid and when he was out in Origin camp. That aside, the question about going back to the Broncos, I reckon what helps him is they have won 6 in a row. So it's not like he's abandoning a sinking ship. So I reckon in that way, the timing is probably helpful for him.
I think he stays. 100%.
If he does stay, does he have to change management? Does he have to, is that a...
No, I don't think so. I just think it's gone horribly wrong. I just think that they thought they misread the room. They misread the room. I think that they thought they had the cards in their side. Pocket aces. Kevy Walter said, royal flush, baby. Royal flush. Boom. Gotcha. Everyone's going to boo you at Suncorp. Boom. Gotcha.
Also, what would have happened, though, if they granted it? And just said, all right, see ya.
Honestly, it's going to sound crazy, and people are going to say that, you're just coping because you know you might lose him. Fair enough if you think that. But if he wants to go. I truly believe that the long-term damage you do to yourself as a club by allowing someone to bully you in to giving him $1 million is crazy. Because, at the end of the day, we've been a bottom 4 side for 3 years now. For 2 years. Bottom 4 side. We can't keep going down this route. We have to change things up. And if anyone has proven it, Adam Reynolds has proven it. We paid maybe $700K for him. Look at the difference he has made to the squad, even off the field. Yeah, so look, if I was speaking to Haas as a mate, I would be saying, if you love this footy side and they're your brothers and you want to win a premiership together, you are going to have to do what leaders do, and that is sacrifice. You may have to sacrifice $100,000 here or there, because the unfortunate thing is if you get that $1 million or that 1.2, one of your brothers is gone. They are going to get released because they can't afford to keep them. If you really want to do something great and build something great, you're going to have to take a bit of a haircut here and there. If 100K or 200K means that much to you at 22, we have to remember he's 22. He's not in the twilight years or whatever. The damage that it will do to your reputation if you do this will be almost irreversible. I mean, DCE is still dealing with that whole backflip situation. And the crazy thing about the DCE thing, that was within his rights because the cooling off period hadn't happened yet. The concerning thing about Haas is he is just breaking a contract. Like, he is just going, no, don't, you give me more money and I'm out of here, which is pretty crazy. Like, that's pretty, there's no bad blood between him and the coaching staff. There's no, there's no differences that he's literally loving his time there. So the only information we have is it's about money. So yeah, it sucks seeing him get booed because he is, when he plays, when he puts the jersey on, he's everything the Broncos should be. But the fans have every right to. Like, they've got every right to express themselves because they feel like we upgraded you, we stood by you through quite a few different things. You're on a great wicket at the club, but you wanted to walk away from us. Like, you wanted to walk. Like, of course they're going to be hurt and upset. But I think the situation is salvageable because the way Haas plays each week. He plays with his heart in his sleeve and he rips and tears every week.
And I think it's also tough. Like Matty used to term before generational talent, and he is, and he might be the best front rower ever. But like a generational halfback compared to a front rower, you're not in the same neighbourhood, and that sucks for front rowers. But it's the reality of it.
Put it this way: what club would pay $1 million for him, knowing what we all know is that you don't pay $1 million for front rowers?
And mate, what's to say that if he plays good footy, his management couldn't in 2 years go, we want 1.3.
Absolutely.
As a fan, I find it hard to separate the player and the manager.
100%.
As most
I
fans
get it.
do.
I get it.
So it doesn't paint a good picture of Payne, unfortunately.
I personally, and this is just my opinion, I know people won't agree with this, I personally believe his management has let him down. I believe that they could have gone about this a different way that had less damage to Payne Haas's reputation and still had the same outcome. But the fact that this is willing, like, because we're talking about a guy that is wanting to walk out of a contract 2 or 3 years before it's even finished, and he just got upgraded. So is there more to the story? There's got to be more going on there. It doesn't make sense.
It's such a dumb time to do it. The team was on its knees for the last 2 years. If you're going to do it when they're the most desperate they've ever been as a franchise.
Fans would have been like, you know what? I get it. We suck.
We got no choice. If we don't have him, what have we got? Now, you've got three or four players that have been picked in Origin that are middle forwards. I almost think it's such dumb timing to do it that I almost feel like it's on purpose.
Yeah. I feel like there's much more to the story.
It's got to be.
I can't see an intelligent man or woman, whoever is management, it's probably a management team, thinking that this helps their client long term. Because there's so much more to footy. There's there's sponsorships, there's third parties. I can't see how wanting to walk out 3 years early because you don't get an extra 100K, how does that help? It's 100K. Like, it's not, if you can't live a good life at $850,000, if you can't set yourself up for the rest of your life at $850,000, you're not going to be able to do it at $1 million. But what you can't buy back, the sad thing in Payne Haas' situation, I still think it's salvageable, but if he goes ahead with this, you can never buy back reputation. You can never buy that back. You can buy houses, material items, and that's what's not squaring with me, because Payne Haas doesn't seem like that guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like a guy that would be like that. So I don't know. I think it's, at the end of the day, they represent Payne, so it has to be on his shoulders. I think it was a poor decision by him to allow them to do that. Now, if they've gone and done it without asking his permission, that's a different story. But as I said, Payne, if you want that extra 100, 200K, all that I would ask as an ex-Bronco player is allow us to get a good player in swap for you, or allow us to have enough time to go into the market and recruit someone, and then go and do your thing. And seriously, and this is not spitefully or sarcastic, seriously, like, good luck and thank you for your service. That's a genuine. If he wants that $1 million and if he's gonna leave unless he gets that, I think that we should begin talks. If it's a done deal, like if there is no turning the ship around, it has to happen. He wants $1 million. I think we should begin talks of doing this in the best way for both parties. You get your $1 million, we get a good player.
I also think for a guy like Payne Haas, like if this hadn't happened, or it might still be, he's going to be the guy in Brisbane for his career,
mate.
Like you look at a guy like you look at Lockie, you look at Gordon Tallis. You're in a one club city. If you're the guy, bro, you're set for a lifetime.
We are in the top 4 right now.
Yeah.
I
even mean like money wise after his career is over.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at though. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
We're already in the top 4.
Yeah.
Bro, all you got to do is see it out for another couple of years and we could win a premiership. And you know what that means? The Broncos are back, the biggest sporting franchise in the country. And guess who lifted us out of the darkest times? Payne Haas did. No one can take that away. But if you go to another club for an extra 100K or 200K, you will never be known as the guy that did that. You will just be known as the guy that got the $1 million, which is fair enough. I get it. Because no one's going to call your phone when you retire and your knees are fucked and your backs are fucked. No one's going to help you out. So I get it and I respect it. All good. But you can get paid similar to that money plus do something great that etches your name in history. Also is an inspiration to thousands of young boys and girls, Polynesian, Filipino, everything that could be an inspiration for. He can do that at the Broncos. It doesn't compute for me. It doesn't compute. There has to be more going on here than meets the eye. For the life of me, I can't understand why you would risk. You're on the cusp of greatness. We're in the top 4. Yeah.
You're already an Origin player. You're locked in for Origin for as long as you're playing. Like, the more you think about it, the less it makes sense.
It doesn't, and it's over 100. It's like next year, apparently he's on 850K. So they want him on $1 million next year, apparently, it's management. This is over $150,000. He earns...
Mate, by the time the Kangaroos are playing again, he's going to make that money from Roos games.
That's what I mean. That's what makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Look, I really do empathise with Payne because I just think that, unfortunately, his management has made the wrong decision for Payne. Now, if there's more to it, fair enough. I'll say, but from the information we have, I personally think that his management have made the wrong call for him.
Can I ask you, as a former player, I guess this would be the equivalent of Hodjo saying he didn't want to be there anymore. How does that impact a playing group? Does that...
Well, it's a little bit different because the playing group's so young and he's the most experienced forward outside of Catewell. Yep. And so he's the big dog, whereas and I'm the younger guy. So the Broncos, when I was coming through, had quite a few different stars, whereas at the moment, Payne is really the main guy, the big dog. So I think that he's earned their respect so much that he can move past this. If Hodjo came out and did that, I think it would be a similar situation where initially the senior playing group and that would be like, what the hell, bro? Like, what? You want to break contract just because of an extra 100K or whatever, even though you signed that upgrade like 6 months ago. But I think that Hodjo's, all that matters is your performance on the field. If you come out and rip and tear and your actions show that you're committed, most things can be forgiven when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I think Payne's the kind of guy. Even on the weekend, at the start, the boos were quite aggressive. Towards the end, they had lightened up a bit because he had worked so hard to kind of earn that back. And I think he can earn it back with the players and the fans.
They had lightened up a little bit, but I can't believe how consistent the crowd was.
I couldn't either. I thought it was going to be maybe once or twice, but the whole game.
The whole game. Even when they made a huge comeback, we'll talk about it soon, but I was almost impressed with how consistent the crowd. To get a group of that many people to be doing that,
well, it shows everyone
for
feels
the same amount of time.
Well, it shows you how everyone feels the same. But we have to, let's be real here. This is a management that has gone in and said, you give us more money or we're gone. We are breaking contract. That's outrageous. That is, and the audacity of it. Not we're not getting along with the coaching staff, he's not going to be his best here. Literally, give us more money or we're out of here. We're breaking contract. That's pretty outrageous. And I think fans have every right to be upset and hurt because he's the guy that they all got behind. I think that Payne, I think he stays, and I think that he earns everyone's respect back by his incredible performances and shows everyone that this was just a little negotiation error, like a lack of reading the room, and he fights his way back to being loved by the Broncos fans.
Just having a look through this draw, right? Brisbane play Canberra on Saturday after Origin. Good chance Payne doesn't play in that. They then go to Amy Park. They go to North Queensland round 17, which he will be playing Origin. They play at Suncorp. Then they go to the Gold Coast, Parramatta, and then round 20, they play at Suncorp. I think his next game at Suncorp will be Origin 3. That will be his next return.
It'll be like Blues fans.
It's the perfect storm.
Oh,
literally.
my God.
Is that right, Matty? Is that how that's how it'll work out, won't it? Round 17 is Origin 2. No, Origin 3. Yeah, it is going to be his next game.
Because Queensland do have this kind of like, yeah, okay, I don't like the Titans when I play against them, but that's a Queensland team. And if you dog, one of us, Queenslanders, we're going to be pissed off about it. I think he earns respect back. I think that, mate, let's work out. Tell me what club right now is going to pay $1 million for him. Because everyone keeps saying all these clubs would be interested. But what we do know now for sure is he wants $1 million. Unless he's willing to take unders to win premierships at other clubs. But if that is the case, then that's really unfair that you left the Broncos because it's like, why'd you sign all those contracts long term if you just wanted to win a premiership? You should have signed a 12-month deal if that was the case.
I don't think anyone will sign him for... I don't think anyone's stupid enough to do it. That's nothing against Payne. It's just his position.
And that's where I think like management has they've misread the room. They've misread the room and just assumed that there's going to be all these clubs lining up to pay Payne Haas $1 million. But I don't think a single club pays $1 million.
And I think there's even less clubs lining up for it now since Brisbane went, okay.
Yeah, just said we're not doing
We're not doing that.
Yeah. I personally think the best thing for Payne would be stay, build up a legacy at the Broncos, because that extra $150K that you want, I guarantee, guess what club can get that for you if they're the number one sporting franchise in the country? It's the Brisbane Broncos.
Yeah. And if you look through history, there's not many clubs that have signed front rowers that have just turned the entire franchise around. You've got Lazarus, and I understand that, but
look at the players around.
Look at the teams he was in.
Yeah.
That Melbourne side, yes, there wasn't, but they had a fucking handy side.
Yeah, absolutely.
The odds are just so far stacked against Payne to get $1 million anywhere.
Yeah. So to sum it up, it definitely did hurt me. If he wants that money, he should take it, and all respect to him. Go and get your money, mate. Take care of your family. I can respect that as a man. I get it. But my advice personally, if I was giving him advice, it would be like, mate, stay and build a legacy, because right now you've taken this club from the darkest days in the club's history. We are currently sitting top 4, and you are a huge reason for that. And I would hate to see you not get the credit when we win a premiership or make a grand final in the next 5 years because you're not at the club anymore. Because that's what I personally believe in the next 5 years, we are slowly preparing to potentially win a premiership. Next 5 years or so. And if Payne Haas isn't there, he doesn't get any credit for it. But if he lifts that trophy, imagine that moment. Payne Haas lifting the trophy from a guy that was at the wooden spoon, and anyway, that would be my advice to him.
You must be proud as a Bronco man, though, of how the club's handled this.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think the old setup, as in the last few years, would have probably caved to this.
Yep.
I think the new setup that have ex-legends in the setup and understand that jersey means more than allowing to get treated like that.
Yep.
I love it. And you know what? It's the right decision. It's the right decision. We've been quite fair with Payne, I think, and we've upgraded him, and I can understand why he feels he's worth $1 million. I get that, but as a club, we just can't afford it right now. Anyway, let's get to the games. Sorry, guys. Storm versus Manly. The Storm get the win. Munster was absolutely outstanding on the weekend. I think that Manly, they were in the game for most of it. Well, at least a fair bit of it. I don't think the score really reflects. Like, I thought they fought really well, Manly. I really did, especially that first half. But in the end, it was the Munster show. He was absolutely outstanding. What did you think of this game?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Manly, they were in the fight. I never felt like Melbourne were going to lose this one, though.
Yeah.
Mate, once again, Munster was sensational. Does it once again just point to how important Jerome Hughes is to this team, though? I mean, we've seen them lose different guys throughout the season, whether it's losing Grant on the weekend, but Hughes, when he's not there, they're a different football side, and Cameron Munster is a different footballer for me. I think he's got a real claim, and I've got no idea what his stats look like or anything, but just having him on the field, the Melbourne Storm are a better side when Hughesy is there. They've lost Pappenhausen, they haven't been as good, but they've been okay. And Hughesy's not in that team, mate. Like, it's trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably say that about every top-tier team, though. If they lose their 7, they would struggle. For
sure, but not every top-tier team has a Munster, a Harry Grant. Like, they've got... their other hooker got Dally M Hooker of the Year last year.
Yeah.
And Hughesy, I love him, but he isn't like a traditional halfback either.
Yeah,
I just think it shows how valuable he is to this side, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's absolutely valuable. I still would say Munster is the big dog, the main guy. But I think Hughes clearly showed that, he's really important. I personally actually think, although they won 28-8, I still think they were nowhere near as good as they are with Pappenhausen on the field. I think Pappenhausen has been super, super missed by this squad.
Yep.
And, because the first half, it was a relatively close game in the first half. It was towards the end that they really blew them off the park. But no, I agree with you. Like, it just shows you that Hughes is there is no question about it anymore. He is one of the best 7s in the comp, bar none. One of the best 7s in the comp, bar none.
One of the best players.
Yeah, absolutely. Completion rate was 88% for Storm, 72% for the Manly Sea Eagles. Was anyone else that... I think that... I do still believe that game, Bellamy would have been happy to get the win, but I still think they were a little bit off where they could have been. I don't think they would have walked off that field going, you know what, we're back to our best. We absolutely nailed it. I think there's still a few areas I have to say, outside backs wise, they're definitely a bit shallower than I thought. They're much shallower than yesteryear. Yesteryear, their outside backs would come in and essentially kill it.
Yep.
Whereas at the moment, I do think they're a little bit light. I thought Tui brought a fair bit when he played.
I thought that was his best game in a while.
I still do think, though, that a team without Nas in it, they really rely on him. I think he's probably becoming one of their most important forwards.
Which, so they should, because they're also without Christian Welsh, who's a Kangaroos front rower.
Yep.
Once again, same as what you said with if you take out any team's best front rower, it's going to be a tough gig. I think, as you said with the outside backs, I think it'll be an interesting few weeks. I think you'll see the debuts of Jack Howarth, and I think you'll see Will Warbrick. I think you'll see him first, actually.
Will Warbrick, is he a fullback?
No, he's been playing wing up there in Queensland. He's the one that came from Rugby Sevens.
Okay.
Start of the season.
All Blacks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been playing for the Falcons up there. He's had a rib injury the last 2 weeks, but he's been training with this side the last 2 weeks. I think that you will see him come in probably for Seve over the next few weeks.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So, look, are the Storm back? I'm not convinced yet.
But it's heaps better than the last 2
But it
weeks.
was much, much better. Yeah. And I think that Munster needs a structure 7. Now, Hughes isn't a typically structured 7, but he does lay the platform.
Structured enough.
He's structured enough because Munster doesn't want to worry about that stuff. You don't want Munster coming out of his end, trying to get blokes here and there. You just want Munster playing footy with no care in the world. Mate, do whatever comes to your head. I spoke to Smithy about it. I was like, Munster's so good at creating something out of nothing. And he was like, it's because Munster, he doesn't even know what he's about to do. He literally just does it. He just feels it and does it. And that's what Smithy was saying. That's what we loved about Cam, is that the reason why he could create anything is it wasn't ever structured or prepared. We just thought, Munster, there you go, do whatever you need to do, and Munster would deliver every single time. And I think that if we've noticed anything over the last few weeks, it's that Munster is never going to be your 7 and your structured guy. You need someone that's going to be a dominant 7 that gets the boys around the park, because he was absolutely... what about the 2 strips in a row? That's crazy. That's so hard.
So hard, but I felt like watching at home, when he does it, you're like, oh, it's Munster. You know it's coming. But it's just like there's just no guys in the comp that do it outside of Munster.
And he nails it every time.
Every time, yeah.
Nails it every time. His feel for the game is almost second to none. Like, I'd probably still have Cody Walker with the best feel for the game, but Munster's right up there. Seriously, he just knows when to make these big decisions. Outside of that, I thought Kenny Bromwich had a good game, a really good game.
Solid, yep. I thought Cheese was better. I think he's been a bit off the last month or so.
I think Cheese has been hard done by because, he wins Dally M hooker last year, then basically gets told, you will not be the hooker long term here.
Yep.
Then he has to build his body up to be a forward, because Harry Grant's most likely at least a 70-minute hooker. And then he's expected it's not as easy as people think to go, because we've got to remember, Cheese, the year before, built his body up to be a forward.
Yep.
When Cam Smith was there. And then last year, he built his body up to be a hooker, and so he was much lighter, so he goes back down muscle mass. And then this year, he's got to put muscle mass back on, become a forward. That's not easy. It's not easy on the body. And fitness, agility, everything, it's much harder. So I think Smith's actually been put in a really tough position where they're expecting him to prepare his body as a forward, but then come and fill in as a hooker. So I agree with you. He was better on the weekend, but I just think that it's one of those situations where Storm have made it pretty clear, all right, if you're going to leave, you're not our guy. And so I think it would be hard for Brandon Smith to be the same guy as committed because he is kind of gone.
I think you made a good point there, and I think that as a fan, I think a lot of us look at Brandon Smith and go, he just makes it work. Like, I heard him talking the other day about, someone asked him about how he prepares for a game, and he sort of said, I find the less prepared I am, the better I go.
Yeah.
So he'll walk in and not stretch. I think a lot of fans, and myself included, just put him as the exception.
Yeah.
Like, he'll just do some crazy shit this week.
Yeah.
So it's a good point you bring up about his body mass and everything.
Mate, put it this way. When I put on, it was maybe an extra 4 kilos, fitness all of a sudden came really hard, and my agility was really hard. Started getting soft tissue muscles, all that kind of stuff. And it's 3 or 4 kilos, and you'd think, I'm telling you, it totally puts out of whack your frame. Frames are built for certain sizes. You've got thicker boys that are just naturally thicker. You've got smaller boys that cannot afford, like Pappenhausen. If you put on a bunch of muscle mass, I guarantee you he'd get injuries immediately.
Yeah.
And it's really underrated that, it changes the way you play. If I'm a 3 or 4 kilos lighter, I feel way faster. I'm way more agile and I'm way fitter. Now, maybe I'm not as strong in contact. And so for Brandon Smith, just that fluctuation, I think it'd be really hard to deal with.
Crazy how it impacts you that much.
Oh, absolutely.
Such a little amount of weight.
But that's where they're working at, though. They're working at such extremities that your body needs to be, it's like a Ferrari, a little bit out, the whole thing's out.
Yeah.
One thing I would say, although Josh King has had a solid year, I do wonder, does he offer enough in attack, do you think? I just think that he really doesn't. He's a great grinder, really good defender, but I want to see a little bit more out of him in attack.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also think that when they've got their full team, I don't think you need that 13, realistically. At the moment, they don't
Maybe
have
it
their
stood
full
out
side.
because...
I think it stood out because of that. I also think that, he doesn't get regarded as a big ball playing forward, but Christian Walsh has got he's handy too in that regard. Just being that link man occasionally. They don't really play with that sort of role like a Radley or a Yo or one of those guys. But I agree with you, but I don't think that's Josh King's role.
Yeah.
Would it be great if he had it? 100%.
Yeah.
But
mate, it's just the last few weeks I've been like, ooh, they really could use a bit of punch around there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the start of the year, Josh King was going to be a guy coming off the bench, I think. And I think just because of all their injuries and everything that's happened, he's ended up, he got that 13 jersey. And, from a Supercoach point of view, I remember a few weeks ago, he got the 13 jersey and we went, this will be great for a month.
Yeah.
But then guys just kept getting injured.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now he's a 60-minute guy in their pack.
I'll tell you what, fucking massive congratulations to him to go from fringy Newey Knights to the starting 13 at the Storm. It just shows you that.
Is anyone shocked?
Mate, but it just shows you that I don't believe, to a degree we don't have much talent, but it's more systems that we've got set up. It goes to a new system and gets that 13 role, like massive respect to him. Hopefully he can continue. And look, he's going to keep working on it. Like he's not a finished product by any stretch of the imagination. But I was watching the last few weeks. I'm like, fuck, they could really use a bit of extra punch in that area. But I do agree that the Storm are probably the only side that doesn't really need a punchy 13 because they've got so much flair and attack. You know, Harry Grant, Brandon Smith coming on. Munster, Hughes.
I sort of thought that Brandon Smith would play that role.
I thought so. I was surprised that he didn't, get that role to start the year.
In saying that with Brandon Smith, I think we all, and I'm sort of going against myself here. We do need to remember he broke his hand a couple of weeks ago. He has been in and out. He's had a few HIAs in games too, so his match fitness and everything, it probably isn't where he'd want it to be.
You know what? And this is just respectfully disagreeing. Love Braith, big Braithy. But I was surprised Braith was asking the question of, like, have Roosters got the wrong man? I was like, bro, like, he's a Dally M hooker only, 4 or 5 months ago? Was surprising. Now, was it Braith that brought that up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts on those comments?
I understand where Braith is coming from, but the Roosters don't sign the wrong guys.
I mean, do we remember how good he played last year?
Yeah, I heard Smithy talking about it the other day, and I completely agree with him. I don't think what Braith said is completely irrational, but I don't agree with him.
It's an opinion. Like, he's just asking a question. It wasn't like Braith was like dragging cheese or anything like that. No way. But I more just respectfully disagree. Like, I think Smithy is absolutely the man for the Roosters, and I think he's going to kill it when he gets there.
He might have been trying to convince the Roosters they need a Cam Munster.
That's the tough thing for Braith. Like, anything he says now, they're like, well,
that's the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, is there a motive here? Is there something? Yeah.
Look, I can get it because, like, Cheese has been a little bit quiet, but I think it's more the Storm are trying to grow into life without Brandon Smith rather than the Cheese choosing to be subdued, Yeah. Now, on to Manly. Thoughts on Manly?
Yeah, that right edge we've spoken about a lot. I think they had 13 missed tackles.
Sorry.
Yep.
Just to clear things up. So last week, someone left a comment, and it was like one of the most liked comments underneath saying, like, they disagree with me. Cherry Evans, isn't the best defender and that. I think you weren't listening to what I was actually saying. Like, just because I said it in a nice way doesn't mean sometimes people, like, just listen to the tone instead of what I'm saying. That was my whole point in that situation was DCE's defence seems like his decision-making seems to be the concern on that right edge. And the thing is that it's not going to be him that gets moved. So they need to allow people outside him to get used to his decision-making so that that right side gets sorted out. And I think some people thought what I was saying is that Cooler and the guys outside him were the problem. When what I'm saying is that DC's defence is super erratic when it comes to his decision-making. I think contact-wise, he's pretty good. One of the better contact-wise defenders in the comp. But his decision-making is super erratic, like super, super erratic. And so I just wanted to clear that up. Like, and again, it's no knock on DCE. Like, well, it is a knock on him because I'm saying his defence is erratic. But it doesn't take away from how good of a player he is. It's just the one weak part of his game. Kind of like Munster, how sometimes Munster can fade in and out of games. It's, everyone has a weakness. But I just wanted to clear that up because I think people misconstrued what I was actually, the point I was trying to make with that. Sorry.
And I think on top of that, Ches does so much outside of that. That thing in his game that isn't fantastic that you couldn't possibly drop him.
No way.
For his defense, what I mean? So you do sort of have to adjust around him.
And that's kind of like my point. Like,
I think most people have understood where you were going.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're never going to drop DCE. So what you need to do is you need to find a super good defensive centre outside him that is going to work really closely with him, and not just work in a small period of time, work over week after week after week, because eventually you're going to get the tells. You're going to see his body language, and you're going to know when he decides to go in and when he doesn't. But anyway, 13 missed tackles.
I think it was 13 missed tackles between DCE, Olakwatu and Kohler. And I think there was 2 or 3, for example, the one off the scrum where DCE didn't touch him, so he doesn't get a missed tackle there.
What I didn't get about that from DCE is, like, just got to trust your inside.
Yeah.
And if he, I mean, it's who fucking we to tell him what to do, but defensive system-wise, you've just got to be like, look, if he gets around you, then that's on you. Like,
that's exactly that's
on you.
Like, DCE bit hard on that one, like hard,
and it was like impossible for Cooler. Even if Cooler does follow him in, he's not going to get there in time.
Yeah.
And so I think with DCE, it's I always look at DCE and like his best gift is also his worst gift in the fact that he tries so hard. He's such a competitor that sometimes he tries to solve things instead of allowing other people to do that.
Takes on a lot.
Yeah, he takes on a lot, and that's why it's like a double-edged sword. You want your leader to do that, and DCE, he's got the runs on the board, so you can understand why he thinks he needs to do that. But sometimes I feel like just a little step, allow the other boys to make their mistakes. If they do, you can sort it out. Because on the weekend, I felt like he was trying to solve things.
And that's where, as you said, it's a double-edged sword. It's that mindset that makes him come up with those defensive plays sometimes. But it's that mindset that has him hitting 340-20s in the first
Absolutely.
6 weeks, like winning games off his boot, essentially.
Well, how many games has he won for Manly almost single-handedly?
Yeah. Mate, it's very similar to what we always say about Cam Munster. He can have these brain explosions, but he has these brain explosions because he backs himself and he doesn't do anything at 90%.
Yeah.
It's 110% every time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that right side edge, the worry for me with Manly is like it's not a secret anymore. Like it is open on the market. That's Manly's
That's where you go
struggle side. What do you think Manly needs to do to sort that out?
Mate, I probably don't have the knowledge within a system to work it out, but because as I said, you can't move DC out of this side, and personally, I think that's where the problem lies. So I'm not sure what the answer is. Whether it is just as you say, give them time to work it out, but it's gonna take some time, especially now that DCE pisses off to Origin for 6 weeks. Like they're not going to have time to gel together for another 6 weeks. Then we're going to be 6 weeks away from finals all of a sudden.
Well, the tough thing for DC is I guarantee you Freddie is going to target him
100%
in Origin.
They did last year.
They did last year massively. I think the only way they fix it is with time. I think that they've shown they're a good enough side to have that weakness and still, make semis and all that kind of stuff. I just think that it's such a tough one because you don't want to be too black and white in defence because sometimes you need to make your decisions. But maybe Desi needs to be like, this is the system that we work with. Coming off our own line, we just jam. We just jam, take the decision making out of we pick a man, we call it out and we say we're jamming. And we kind of do what Storm do where they jam and then cover in behind. I think that could be a way they could fix it because if you make that system and take the decision out of the players' heads, then there's no question as to what I do. DCE goes, I'm jamming in on the 3-runner. Cooler knows he's getting the fullback out the back, the centre. And look, if they're good enough to hands it or kick you out the back,
so be it.
So be it. Yeah. You can sort it out. And I think the Storm have kind of really adopted that play style of, look, boys, if we're on our own line, we just jam and we trust that Hughes is going to come in behind and cover tackle. I really think that's the only way you're going to fix this issue.
Doesn't it just... And, I know I think people underrate it sometimes, but being a half that is just like a Dylan Brown, like it's just invaluable. Isn't it? And that's not having a crack at DCE. He's not the first halfback that struggles in defence.
Yeah.
But you look
some of the greatest halfbacks ever struggled in defence.
But for me, it's those greatest ones like Joey and Freddie who gun defenders.
Yeah.
It just separates these guys.
It's the hardest, probably the hardest position on the field to defend, really.
And it's the easiest to take advantage of.
Yeah.
If you want to try and get where a half has to defend, it's so easy to take advantage of them and to make their second row outside them work overtime. And if you don't get them on that play, you'll get the team on the next one.
Yeah. So if I'm Desi, I'm sitting down with Ches and I'm like, Ches, when they're coming out of their end, we just up and slide. If they want to get those extra 10 metres, they get that extra 10 metres. If we're defending anywhere inside our own 20, just jam. Just jam, and then we'll sweep in behind. And then if that doesn't work out, we'll go to the video session and we'll check it out. Because at the moment, it feels like they're caught between like two worlds. Like, are we a jam or do we not jam? And Cooler doesn't know. I think you just take the guesswork out of it and you just...
And that's the other thing with DCA. Like this was a problem last year. It's just that they were smashing teams by 60.
Yeah.
That it only mattered when you were playing the good teams. And that didn't happen enough for people to talk about it as much as they should have.
Well, I'll say at the Broncos, like our literal defensive system was, if you look up and they've got an extra number and you're on your try line, you jam. 100% jam. No questions asked. And it's called red. You just call out red, red, red. And everyone just picks a guy and jams in on him. And it seemed to work. It seemed to work. And it sounds so simple, but, it's not. If it was so simple, they'd already be doing it. But I really believe, with my limited knowledge, Desi obviously knows much more than I do, I really believe that's how Manly sort out. They just simplify it, almost choose what they're going to do. They just sort
And mate, even like as you said, that red call, you know, like you're still. It means that you then put the emphasis on their opposing ball player to, in a split second, decide who's going to be the man that I need to hit. One of them's going to be right, but you've got to make that split second decision, and it puts you under pressure straight away.
Yeah, yeah. And I just think that like if inside men know that that's happening, they can get across in time. Because what happens is like even if they throw it over your head, it's, you know, it takes ages to get there, or it gets thrown behind them and they got to pick it up. So yeah, I think that's probably the only way. Outside of that, I thought Josh Alloy was outstanding in the first half. I really thought he took it to the Melbourne Pack. He was aggressive. He was that. Every team that plays the Storm, they need that one guy to become that guy that really says fuck you to the forward pack. I thought Alloy was really good. You know, I thought aside from a couple, did he have an error? There was something that he did that I missed tackle maybe. Anyway, I thought Garrick was really good at the back. I thought he was really good. I thought he got through a bunch of work. You know, had a couple offloads, a line break assist. He has a try assist as well. I don't mind Garrick at fullback. Shout out to Tafua. You know, so good to get a try on your return game. I will say, though, masterstroke from the Melbourne Storm. They go, oh, yeah, you're back after, you know, however many, a year or whatever. We're going to bomb it to you every single play. And they did not let up. They did not let up.
Yeah.
But outside of that, Olakawatu ran for over 100 metres, which is good. Had 4 tackle breaks as usual. Are you concerned about Manly missing the 8?
Yes.
Do you think they'll miss the 8?
Yeah, I'm really, like, after they lose that, where are they now? Are they 10th or 11th?
I think they're 11th.
11th, sweet. They're going to lose DCE for the next 6 weeks. He'll be in and out anyway. I think a lot of it comes down to Josh Schuster.
Yeah.
He's going to move into the halves. He's probably, I would say, and
he had a mixed bag on the weekend. Had some really good.
I would say
numbers.
he's probably not ready right now
to
play in the halves, just as far as match fitness wise and everything goes. But it's the NRL, and sometimes you got to play unprepared and get it sorted. So I think they missed the 8.
Oof, tough call.
I mean, mate, and like we look at their side now, and I'm saying I think they missed the 8. Like we're assuming that they don't have any more injuries for the rest of the year as well. Like it could get worse. It probably will. It's the NRL.
What do you reckon, Matty? Do they miss the 8 or what?
Yeah, I haven't missed the 8. I don't like. I reckon 1 to 7. You can probably. I mean, you can't lock it away, but you can almost lock it away. And then fighting for the 8 spot, you got South, you got Dragons, you got Raiders, you got Manly. Yeah, I don't see them beating all those teams. I reckon they'll miss the 8.
Yeah, look, if I'm Manly, and it's hard to think like this, it feels like almost defeatist attitude, but I'm almost preparing for next year. And it sounds crazy. Not yet. But if they lose a couple more and they really lose touch with that 8th position, I really think they begin preparing for next year.
That 8 team, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, I mean, they're going to get Latrell Mitchell back in the next few weeks.
And I want to talk about that because I reckon Latrell...
he looks like he's ready to...
Fucking looking real trim, and he looks angry. Anyway, we'll get to that. Don't forget, guys, Origin Game 1, we will be live at the Locker Room Hotel doing a live podcast. Myself, Gurino, Timmy, and Hello Sport will be doing a live show just like this, but live, and we can sit down, chat to you, everything, ask questions in the crowd, ask what teams you go for, your predictions, all that kind of stuff. Plus, we are in Bloke Beer is in every single Celebrations, Bottle-O, Porter's Liquor, and IJ Plus Liquor in New South Wales and ACT, plus every Celebrations Superstore in Queensland. On top of that, every Bottle-O in New South Wales is selling Bloke beer for $52. An absolute steal for the next 2 weeks, so don't miss it. Now,
just before the next game, we should comment on how great Indigenous round was.
The what?
Indigenous round?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Indigenous round, and I love seeing the boys shake a leg after a try. Selwyn Cobbo, the boys, didgeridoo with Wendell Saylor, throwback, beautiful stuff. I love the round. I really, really do. I just think it's so positive. It's a celebration. The jerseys are great. The boots are great. And, it adds to our game. You know what I mean? Like, anyone that doesn't, just enjoy it. Like, it adds something to our game. We get to experience a culture that a lot of us aren't very versed on. That's just and it is our native culture. It's our native culture. We should know about it. I think it's fantastic. And seeing how much it means to the boys and just... It's interesting. I loved it. What do you think of Indigenous round?
Yeah, I loved it. I remember I was actually there for that first Indigenous All Stars game, and where I was sitting was about 3 rows away from where Wendell Saylor did that.
Oh, how good!
So to see Selwyn then do it the other night, it brought back great memories. Yeah, mate. I think that from an education point of view, I think it's getting much better in Australia. I've obviously been a teacher for the last few years, and it definitely is improving. within schools and stuff.
Because I came through school, and I think I did one subject on it. That's it.
And it's
like the Dreamtime subject.
Well, no, like I remember when I first started teaching, we'd have like an Indigenous Day. It's now an Indigenous Week, and it's unreal. Like you just get so many experiences. I also think the jerseys,
sick,
mate, unreal, and they all had a narrative to them.
I loved them.
It was great.
I loved Paras. I think Paras was sick. I didn't mind the Warriors as well. And shout out to the Māori Indigenous culture as well. It's a huge part of it.
I thought that the Sharks jersey, like it had a real story to them that there were sharks swimming at the top, and they were kids from a local community that they'd been involved with, and the big sharks at the bottom were the Cronulla Sharks, and it represented I think they have 5 Indigenous players in their top 30, so they're 5 total. Like it told a real story. Like I remember a couple of years ago, and I think it was Jack White came out and spoke about the Raiders one and sort of just said, this is shit.
Yeah,
this is just a throwaway attempt to do an Indigenous jersey. I love the meaning that's behind them all now, and I think it's unreal.
For people listening, I'm extremely proud as an Australian of our history, and I think that Australia's history should be it's not perfect, absolutely, but most of it should be celebrated. I'm very proud, but we have to remember the Indigenous culture. That's 60,000 years of history. Australia's been around for 250 years or whatever.
Yep.
There is a deep, deep well of incredible culture that we can learn, and I think it's a privilege that we have that as our native culture in this land. So, I think it should be celebrated, man. I really, really do like it, and I like that every jersey has a story to tell. It's just you can actually go to NRL.com, and there'll be a story and links to every single team explaining the story of the jersey. So that's awesome. What do you got there, Manny?
I just thought it was fantastic as well that on Indigenous round, Alex Johnson, Indigenous player, breaks the Rabbitohs record, which was set by one of our great, most loved Indigenous players, Nathan Merritt.
Yeah.
So it just timed great.
So good. So yeah, I loved it. And as I said, I'm a very proud Australian, and I think that we should be super honoured to have this Indigenous culture as a part of our land. I think the jerseys were sick. Especially, I loved the Eels one. The Eels one was so hectic, seriously.
All the pre-match before every single game.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And shout out to Nine and Fox. I thought they did a great job at making it feel like that. So, congratulations to NRL, and I hope all the Indigenous boys, were proud of it and enjoyed it and felt like it was treated with the respect it deserves. Now, on to the next game for the week. Panthers v Cowboys. I want to get this out of the way. This talking point. Is Dylan Edwards the form number 1 fullback in the NRL right now?
He's definitely the most consistent. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Mate, you asked me this earlier, and it got me thinking. Week to week, I think it's hard to argue with. I haven't seen him play a bad game.
He's been I think if Pappenhausen was still playing, you'd have him at number 1 form, form-wise.
Yeah.
I think Dylan Edwards is no longer an underrated player. To me, he is not underrated and unappreciated. He deserves the respect that he has earned. He is currently a top 3 form fullback in the competition now. And to say that he isn't in the top 3 form, in my opinion, means that you don't watch Penrith games.
But, mate, I reckon a lot of people would say that he isn't in the top 3.
Form-wise, we're talking
form-wise, yeah. But I still reckon there's a lot that probably wouldn't, because I keep thinking, he's not underrated anymore. But then I talk to people about him, and I'm like, maybe he kind of is.
What I mean by he's not underrated anymore is I don't put him in the put him in the bracket of underrated anymore.
Yeah.
He's not the guy that I don't sit there and go, oh shit, he's pretty he's fucking good. I go, oh no, Dylan Edwards is a motherfucker. He's a motherfucker, and I think that. It's almost, you can't argue against it. I think he's a top 3 form fullback. And right now, if you said to me that all fullbacks went to market and he was in the top 5 for being purchased or whatever, wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think the other thing that says a lot about Dylan Edwards is the amount of times I hear commentators or people say about a club, oh, they should just go and get themselves a Dylan Edwards type fullback. And it's like, there is one Dylan Edwards. There is one Dylan Edwards that, seemingly consistently flies under the radar but does his job every single week. Dylan Edwards isn't a go to the shelf and pick out a Dylan Edwards.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I mean with the people think that can be replicated because they still...
Which, it should be able to. There's nothing that Dylan Edwards does. He is just effort built on effort every single week.
Yep.
It should be able to be replicated, but it's not.
It's really not. I honestly feel like if you wanted a representation of this club's turnaround, Penrith Panthers, Dylan Edwards is the perfect person. Because, yes, is he the athletic freak of a Crichton? Is he the next big thing of Taylor May or a Tungor? No. Is he Nathan Cleary? No. And yet, he's probably in their top 3 players more often than nearly any other player outside of Cleary and maybe Yo.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Dylan Edwards right now is a top 3 form fullback. And if you had him as the number 1 form fullback for 2022, outside of Pappy being injured, I wouldn't argue against that.
I think as well, if you look at the Penrith Panthers over the last years, you look at the outside backs they've lost, Matt Burton, Josh Mansell, these sort of guys. There's a world where they could have kept those guys and moved Dill Edwards on and moved Stephen Crichton fullback.
Yeah.
But no, it was, we played Dill, that's it. We got to finals, Dylan Edwards was injured, running around on 1 foot. We played Dill. He's too important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to I don't know. I just feel like he has cemented himself as a top tier fullback. A top tier fullback, because it was only 12 months ago where you were saying no, he's not. He's a step below the top tier. I think he's in the top tier now.
To be honest with you, I think in a year's time we could be having the same conversation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think he's just going to be I think he's going to be like Luke Patton. He's going to be a gun week in, week out. I don't think he's going to play Origin. But I think he's always just going to be a little bit, maybe not maybe underappreciated is the word.
Well, hopefully we can change that.
Hopefully
we can change that, because I just think he's outstanding, and he's consistently 8 out of 10 every week, 8 to 9 out of 10.
And I think people that understand rugby league probably don't feel the need to constantly point that out with Edwards. I think I
guess we're pretty blessed as well to have some absolute genetic freaks absolutely throbbing at fullback in the NRL right now. So, when you put it up at face value compared to Latrell or Travojevic, then people are like, oh,
here's a question for you. Here's a really good question for you.
Ask me.
It's going to fucking stump you. This is a stumper. And ask you to this, Matty.
Sure.
Would you rather Tom Travojevic on $1 million a season or Dylan Edwards on 600K?
Yeah, see, and this is hard. This is a genuine hard question. And you have to take in consideration that Edwards, he hasn't been injured in 2 or 3 years. He's had minor little things out. He's played through injury. I think the other thing with Edwards, you get him on 600K, he's going, I don't think he's going to play Origin. So
you might even get him for 500, honestly.
You might, yeah. He's proven on the big stages. He's not going to play Origin. He's not going to disappear for 2 months, smack in the middle of the season.
Yep.
Value-wise, I think there's a really fair argument. Dylan Edwards has achieved more on the big stages of finals than Tom Travojevic has, and that's...
Which is crazy to think.
Yeah, I feel bad saying that because it's Turbo and he's so good, but it's reality. You have to give credit to Dylan Edwards.
And it's more just because Turbo hasn't been given the opportunity in finals footy, because he's done it in Origin footy.
Yeah. Turbo has played. You look at the Penrith Panthers last year, unreal side. They lost 1 game last year in the finals series. Shocked me. The game that Dylan Edwards didn't play. They won every other one and he was injured the entire time.
I personally believe right now, if Teddy was injured, Dylan Edwards would get the call up to New South Wales.
That's what you were going to ask me.
Oh, really?
Your next fullback,
okay. Well, we'll get your answer on the 600K versus $1 million. So,
I'm taking Turbo. I think Turbo is the best player in the comp. Injuries are very unfortunate. However, if Penrith were offered Turbo for $1 million, if I was Penrith, I'd be saying, no, we're keeping Dylan.
Yeah, it's all... the answer for me personally, and a bit unfair on you, Garino, would just be it's all relative to what your cap is, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If you've got Cleary sitting there, then yeah. Whereas if you're like the Bulldogs, you get Turbo.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's it is, but
yeah, that's fair.
What I think is the interesting thing is it's a genuine stopper, where you go, ooh. Whereas I don't think most people would be like, nah, Turbo every day of the week. I'll ask you this and you as well, Matty. If Teddy is injured, who is selected at fullback for New South Wales?
Well, mate, to be honest with you, the guy that comes to mind for me straight away is probably Nico Hines. But should it be? Why not Edwards? If Damien Cook got injured, I would straight away go, let's pick Appy because he's got the combo with the Penrith boys. Why don't I do the same with Edwards, you know?
Yeah.
It's clearly Edwards for me. It's like, A, because of what he can do, but B, you got Luai, you got Cleary, you got Yo, you got probably
And that's where we're at with Edwards. You know what I mean? That is a resounding endorsement of where Edwards is at.
If Turbo was, as it stands right now, Turbo was injured. If Latrell wasn't injured, do you go with Latrell at fullback or Dylan Edwards in that situation?
I go Edwards and keep Latrell at centre.
Matty?
Fit them both in, yeah, sure.
Because I'd want to fit them both in.
Yeah,
I just think that, like, I love Trell in the centres for Origin. Like, I just think he's so unstoppable. I think at Clubland, he's better at fullback for the Rabbitohs. But when you've already got a stacked side, and I just think centre for him can be so dangerous. But it just shows you how far he's come. It shows you how far he has come. Because I'm telling you right now, 24 months ago, there's no way Edwards people would be like, nah, he doesn't have enough of the high end ceiling to be Origin. But I think he's proven that he does. He's proven that he does. So massive rats to him. But let's get into the game. Panthers versus Cowboys. This was a really strange game due to the takeaways. If a Penrith Panthers, your takeaway is we are the motherfuckers. Like, we are a step above the rest of the comp, and that is including the Melbourne Storm right now. They choked the Cowboys out of this game. Matter of fact, it looked like a team that was in complete control the whole time. It almost like they knew exactly how this game was going to pan out, and they knew exactly how they were going to make it happen. Whereas if you look at the Cowboys, you go, defensively, you guys were absolutely outstanding. What did you take away from this game?
Mate, I think Penrith, as you said, they're incredible. I thought the thing that stood out for me with Penrith was that they had so much ball early and the Cowboys defended it so well that for sometimes that can frustrate teams. Sometimes they can frustrate teams. It didn't worry Penrith in the slightest.
Yeah.
They just understand that as long as we've got more football than you, you're going to make more tackles than us, you're going to be exhausted, and we're going to win this in the back end. They didn't get frustrated in the slightest. And look, I thought the Cowboys' defence was incredible. I thought there was obviously the one where Isaac Tungo scored, his elbow hit the ground or whatever. So you could argue they potentially got a little bit lucky on that one. But, mate, the amount of ball that Penrith had, the amount of repeat sets that they forced, I thought the Cowboys' defence was so impressive. One thing I want to ask you, and I've been thinking about it for ages, I thought the other night was a good example. Panthers went repeat set, right? Scott Drinkwater, he was kicking their dropouts. Personally, I would be going short just about every single time. If you get the ball back, bonus. If you don't, I think against a side like Penrith, I would rather defend on my line than come out 40 metres and have to go up and back and let Penrith get on the front foot moving forward.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, it's interesting because...
Like, if you back your defence in, on your line, as crazy as it sounds, it's the easiest spot to defend.
Yeah.
If you've got yourself sorted.
I don't know, because, like, if you do it on the line, they can score every play pretty much. You know, like, every play, they got an opportunity to score on you.
But they weren't.
I know they weren't.
Yeah.
I know they weren't. But they still have the chance to. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, if you get at least 3 tackles that are 40, like one tackle 40, the next tackle 35, the next tackle 30, that's 3 tackles gone. That you may keep them out from really attacking on your line. Honestly, it's a coin toss. It really is a coin toss of what you back. You know, would you rather keep a distance between? Because then also you could talk about field position. If you hold them out further enough, there's a different attacking kick as well. Rather than it being a crossfield bomb, it's a bit out, so it's a bit more harder to land it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, both tactics could work.
And I think, you know, as you said, if it's a coin toss, you also then have the coin toss of getting the ball back.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Like, personally, I thought the Cowboys getting the ball back off a lot of those dropouts, I think it saved them a bit of pain the other night.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fair point. I don't mind it. Because, like, when you drop out, they usually get a couple of attacking plays anyway. So it's like, well, we may as well just fucking do it off our line and not have to get off
That's
it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just more on the Panthers. Like, they're just on another level. It's that simple. They are truly on another level. I thought Kikau was outstanding. His energy was incredible. Isaiah Yeo, I mean, we all know Isaiah Yeo. I think, like, Nathan Cleary, he's not even getting talked about, but he still just is so clinical. And what's interesting is that think it was like 2 weeks ago after the game, they're like, oh, you're going to get into a grind or a bit of a grindy game of footy. And Cleary's response was, no, we like that. He said, we like grinding games because it gives us a chance to get a feel for how the game's going to go. And I was like, wow, that is intense as fuck. When you're not saying, oh, we've got to get into the grind and stay in a row. He's saying, no, we like the grind. We want to keep the ball in play. We want to make sure that we are in play as long as possible. It's incredible.
And I think that was probably the lesson they took out of the 2020 grand final. That they went from being the high-flying kids throwing the ball around. And then for me, the difference in that 2020 grand final was Smithy and how he got his Melbourne Storm back in and they grinded their way to the end of that game. And I think from that point on, the Penrith Panthers have just gone, fuck it. We're going to be the toughest team. We're going to be the most resilient team in this competition. I think the final series last year showed it. They were comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jerome Luai is just improving week in, week out, especially around Origin, which is a good sign. Tongo runs for another 152 metres. Yeah, look, what else is there to say? The Panthers are on another level, and right now, they would almost guarantee themselves a grand final spot. I cannot see, at the moment, right now, unless they get injuries or whatever, how they won't be able to at least make it into the grand final. That's the level that they're on right now. But it's a long season. We've still got, minimum 13, 14 games to go before the end of the season. But they are just on another level, and it's going to be a special team that knocks these guys out of the final. Special team. Cowboys. Valentine Holmes, 200 metres. 7 tackle breaks. Matter of fact, he might even go into my team of the week, but maybe. We'll see. The Cowboys, I personally think they can take a lot away from this game. Nothing went their way in attack. Their completion rate was fucking terrible. 62 completion rate. 62% completion rate. So, yes, we could sit here and go, that is absolutely not good enough in a big game. Like, that's actually terrible. But defence wins premierships, and to only lose to the Penny Panthers 22-0, even though it's still a dominant loss, I think it's good signs, really good sign.
I think at one point, Penrith's completion rate was 18 from 18. Like, their first half was
almost perfect.
Close to perfect, and they only, to be only down 16-0 at halftime and then to lose the second half 8-0 when you did all that work in the first half, I thought the Cowboys did well to be in this game. I think there's so many more positives to take out of this than negatives. If the Panthers are playing any other team, they probably win by 50 the other night, don't they? Mm-hmm. The amount of ball they had, all things considered. So
this is where, though, I think it's evidence, and I think we're starting to see with the Sharks as well, that this year is a bit too soon for them to be ready to challenge for a premiership.
Yeah.
They don't have everything they need in place yet to be able to challenge for a premiership. I think you're seeing it more with the Sharks as weeks go on, where you're going, yeah, it's incredible, the run they're going on, really good, but they're just not the complete package yet. They're not the complete package yet. So although it's tough because it's still 22-0. It was 22-0, and they never looked like winning, ever. Yeah. But it's a good base to build off. It's a bloody good base to build off.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, this year's probably not going to be the year for the Cowboys, but I mean, if they keep doing what they're doing, you've now got Tommy Dearden that's walked into a Queensland camp. You've got Nanai who's walked into a Queensland camp. Leilua's going to arrive up there next year.
That's massive, man.
They still need to find a spot for Hammer in this team.
Leilua as well as Jeremiah Nanai.
Hylam Lukey's going to have just another year under his belt.
And they were missing Felt and Taumalolo.
Yeah, imagine the new level that Cotter's going to go to as well.
And you got to say, Felt and Taumalolo, it's at least 12 points there.
Yeah.
So...
And I think that's what stood out for me for the Cowboys. They did so much defence that they struggled to get out of their own end. Fuck, the greatest meters guy in rugby league history would have been handy to have in Taumalolo.
I know. And one of the best finishes, for
it was
time.
real. I don't have the stats in front of me. I'd love to see their average sets compared to Penrith. Actually, you know what? It wouldn't be as telling because Penrith had so many sets 10 metres out, essentially. But every time I watched the Cowboys, Chad was kicking from a good set. He'd kick from the 40. Yeah. Most of the time, he's kicking from the 30.
Yeah. So look, great signs for the Cowboys. Great signs. I think that they've shown that they have the foundation. Now it's just about those little, because imagine they have that same game, but that little cherry on top that breaks games open, and they score a couple of tries. All of a sudden, it's 22-12, and they're in the match. Yeah. And I think that they're still about 12 months away from that.
I'll say this about the Cowboys. Nanai 51, Robson 51, Cotter 63 tackles.
And their bench didn't miss a tackle.
Yeah, they did a lot of work in that game. They've got a reasonably short turnaround. They play the Titans this week on Friday night.
I reckon Titans might get them.
Yeah, this is the thing I'm worried about. Fuck, they would have been desperate for a bye this weekend, I think, Cowboys. I just hope that a potential loss against the Titans, that 2 losses doesn't turn into 3.
In saying that, what? So Cotter and Thingo, they won't be playing, will they?
Cotter won't play.
And Nanai.
Nanai won't play. Din won't be there all week. He will come back on Friday or whatever.
Will he though? Because he's 18th man.
Matty, did you see that?
Because you wouldn't want to get him
this morning?
injured.
I think 18th man now. I don't know this, but
Because they're more likely to play.
Yeah, because they're actually part of the team now.
and all that kind
I'm
of
not
stuff.
sure though. I'm not sure.
I'll
do some digging.
I think it'd be crazy to be sending Dearden back. Look what happened with Marnie last year.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I have an answer for you. I saw something about it today. Yeah. I mean, regardless though, I'm worried that their early success, if they do have 2 losses on the trot, it could. Internet's not working. Don't worry about it. That it could turn into trouble potentially.
As in confidence gets a bit of a hit.
You just start to
Post
have a bit
Origin
of a domino
blues, all that
effect.
kind of stuff.
You lose those 2 games. The NRL's hard. You could lose that 3rd game, even though you play well. All of a sudden, you have a look at the Sharks now. They're now sitting in 7th place.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to be locked into a top 4 spot.
Yeah, which is
5
crazy.
weeks ago.
Another thing I wanted to note: Talon May, last run of there's 3 minutes to go. He knocks it on. They're 22-0 up. There's 3 minutes to go, and Talon May literally blows up, slams the ball down, and I'm like, that's why Penrith are where they are. They are 22-0 up. He's made just 1 error with 3 minutes to go. The game's over. It's literally over. And he's so filthy at that error. He's throwing the ball and blowing up. I just love that shit. Anyway, on to the Broncos versus the Titans. Wow. Oh, I mean, I said last week, if they play like that against the Knights in that first half, they'll get bit by a better side.
Sorry. Origin squad players numbered 19 to 22 will return, so 18 won't.
Yes. Okay, sweet. Now, I said that if the Broncos do what they did in the first half against the Knights, against the Titans, they'll get bitten. And I think we saw that. I just don't think anyone expected the Titans' fadeaway to be as dramatic as it was. One of the great fadeaways. This one's really hard to take a bit out of because, as I said, first half Broncos were abysmal. And then the second half, they come out and put, 35 points on or, whatever it is, like 30 points
31,
or whatever it was, 31. Yeah. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, Titans. God, it must be frustrating being a Titans fan. I get them. They want to tell me to get lost when I say I'll just be patient. I know it's hard, but this is what you signed up for, unfortunately. Foz arriving there next year will help. We said it earlier. There's not a hope in hell. Fogarty last year or Foz next year says go for the short kickoff. I feel sorry for Tino in that moment. But I mean, like they went for a short kickoff and didn't know the rules of a short kickoff. Mm-hmm. It's unlucky that it turned into a length of the Broncos returning it on that. But for a young squad to concede points and start to feel a comeback, and then 40 seconds later they're standing behind the sticks again, going, "What the fuck just happened?" Our 14-0 lead with 25, our 14-point lead with 25 minutes to go is now an 8-point lead, and we haven't made a tackle or a pass. Nothing's happened in the last 6 seconds.
Oh, man.
It's tough. And I thought Brisbane, once they got in a roll, we spoke about it last week, Ezra Mam had some really nice moments. That pass that he threw to, was it Corey Oates?
Bro, so nice. So good.
Proper silky.
Silky.
Yeah.
And he has that special little it back to his footwork. Even the try that he scored to hold it up for Herbie, he just held it long enough. He slowed his whole run down, then supported through the middle. We'll keep talking about the Titans.
Yeah.
Look, really disappointing. Unfortunately, and I know the boys will be hurting, but unfortunately, I just don't care how old you are to lose a lead like that.
Yep.
It's just unforgivable.
Especially when, they were down to 11 at one point, and Fafita pulled a try out of his ass somehow.
Yeah.
You got to go. I personally, and I won't go too heavy on, but I thought that Esau Masters play, if I see a dumber play than that this year, I'll give it away.
Yeah, it was silly.
Just,
it was really silly.
And we don't need to, he'd be well aware of that, but it was just, you just watch that and you're just like, fuck, you're already down one player.
And it was so obvious.
So
like
obvious.
you're
Nothing
looking at the
else was
ref.
ever going to happen.
Yeah, silly play. There's really not much else to say other than that was just a brain explosion.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, who was the other guy that got sent for 10 in the bin?
I think it was a forward from memory. It was the minute before.
Yeah, McIntyre last.
McIntyre, that was it.
What did he do again?
I can't even remember the one with McIntyre, to be honest with you. I think it was clouded so quickly by Masters.
I'm trying to think of what he did. Look, the Titans, there's really not much to say. Like, there really isn't. It's just unforgivable. And, like, to go down to a team when you're up and it's a derby and they've got every reason to be playing for it.
That's right. He held Cobbo. Like, he didn't let Cobbo play, release him to play the ball.
Oh, yeah, and Cobbo had made a break.
Yeah.
To talk about compounding errors. Anyway, the Titans, I'm not really sure what to say. It just wasn't good enough. And this was a typical game where you see inexperience coming through, like you really do.
That was the most frustrating thing. Their young spine looked so good in the first 20 minutes.
Good.
Like we didn't stop talking about Jaden Campbell in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Just some of his touches and there was a pass that he threw at one point. There was just such a basic pass, but it's just so natural for him. Sexton obviously got injured, which hurt them, but yeah, this is who the Titans are. I think they're 14th now on the ladder. Just tough to watch.
Yeah. Now onto the Warriors Knights. This was a tough game. I think you could probably tell that both these teams are most likely not going to make the 8. I hate talking about these games because if you say it was a good game or whatever, you're just not being honest. Yeah. Like, this was I
think that they were lucky to play each other on Saturday.
Like, yeah, they really were, because they both, the Warriors did everything they could to keep the Knights in the game. They were kicking out in the full. There was a bunch of different stuff that, they'd score a try, and then the next set they would knock it off. Like, it was crazy. They opened the game so well, and it was almost like they were anyway. I feel.
It's amazing for how many fundamental errors they make, how they stay in game.
It's crazy.
It makes no sense whatsoever. They score tries off kicks that they rebound. I think there was one point about the 30th minute, they'd kick the ball over both sidelines on the full and dead.
Yeah. Yep. Mate, and unfortunately, SJ just hasn't hit the heights that we all thought he would. He looks really frustrated. He looked like it really hurt him at the end of that game, because I think you can feel it.
I think it sucks for SJ too, because it's been the season of experienced halves going to new clubs and bang, we explode. Whereas it's been the opposite. What do you do with SJ? Do you give him a bit of a spell?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what you do there, because the problem with SJ is he has patches in games where he does some brilliant things. And then, for example, last week's game, he did some brilliant stuff. And then obviously, had some errors or whatever. I don't know. I truly don't know where the Warriors are right now. For example, Pompey and Vailea, in attack, were outstanding. Some of their attack was outstanding, and they missed way less tackles than they did last week. They improved dramatically. You look at the missed tackle stat for the Warriors, and it's actually quite low. But then you look at these huge moments, these huge plays, kicking out on the full and all this kind of stuff, and it just kills their momentum.
And I know it'll sound like it's easy to say in hindsight. I said it on my podcast during the week. Is it a bit of a bizarre one for, DJ Haas does so well the last few weeks. Chanel Harris-Tavita announces that he's not going to play rugby league next year, and he comes straight into the 6 role.
Very surprising.
I don't understand that move.
Yeah.
I don't I personally think, and I didn't think I'd be saying this, but looking at them and the guys that are playing there, chuck Volkman a jersey. Fuck, let's see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, they're at the point now where it's just like,
what have you got to lose?
Yeah, really.
Volkman's ready.
Mate, I don't know what's going on. Honestly, really hard to pick. Warriors were absolutely their own worst enemy. I mean, what's crazy though is they only missed 12 tackles in the entire game. So it's just the huge moments. You know what I mean? It's these big errors in big moments. That's what kills the Warriors, is that if they just make the right decision in these big moments, all of a sudden they're ahead by X amount of points. And then you go to the Knights side of things. They completed less than the Warriors completed, and they missed more tackles. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. Look, with the Knights, you got to get a win where you can find it.
Yeah,
and
take it.
Take the bloody win and just leave. Because it was just one of those games where both teams refused to allow themselves to win. You know what I mean? Every time they got a bit of ascendancy, an error would happen. So I don't really know. I honestly, with this game, I'm a bit speechless. I don't know what the answer is for either side.
I suppose with the Knights halves, I thought that was the one positive. I thought Clifford looked good. I thought Anthony Milford, he looks great. Is he looking fitter now? I think he looks the fittest I've seen since 2015.
With the way he's running, I still think physically, in his off season, he's probably put on a little bit. But I agree with you. He looks the most energetic for sure.
He looks.
Mate, if I'm the Knights, I'm trying to sign him immediately.
I think you got to do whatever you can to sign him.
You got to get him in that side, because when it clicks, him with Ponga, he just releases Ponga to be able to do what he needs to do. Clifford, I agree with you. I thought Clifford looked, a lot happier, a lot better there.
If Clune's available next week, do you keep Clifford? Because that's the thing. Clune was injured last week. He wasn't dropped, so
I'd probably just keep Clifford. I think you
so
won. Don't change the formula. Milford's defence was really good. He was hitting blokes. He smashed Walsh. The Montoya Marcelo one, I kind of agree with it, man. It was a swinging arm. Yeah. Some people were saying he was falling. He wasn't falling. He fell, and then he was getting back up. So swinging arm, you just can't do that in today's game. So I kind of agree with it. Again, I want to give a shout out, I guess, to the Warriors centres. I thought that they were much better than last week. They only missed, I think, one missed two and the other missed one. They were really good in attack. But yeah, for both teams, I think that they look at it and they just go, let's wipe the slate with that game, because it was a tough game, all up. Jake Clifford's kicking game, his long kicking game was pretty solid. Clemmer again, another huge knock. He runs for 139 metres, 54 post contact, 42 tackles, 0 missed. Tyson Frizzell also had a massive knock, 125 metres, 42 tackles, 0 missed. So sometimes you just got to get the win any way you can. The Knights do.
Yep. Throw away the tape.
Yeah, throw it away, come back the next week and work on it again. So I think both teams, though, I'd be very surprised if they make the 8, which is disappointing, because I had at the start of the year, Knights, not so much with all the injuries they had, but Warriors, I thought they might be able to make it.
Probably be a smoky at least.
Now, Rabbitohs versus the Tigers. Really interesting. What's interesting about this game for me is, so Tigers, did they go up 12-0 or 18-0?
10-0.
So they're up 10-0, and I wrote, so the Tigers scored that length of the field try, the intercept, and I wrote at the time, Rabbitohs will win this game because at least 3 to 4 Rabbitohs chased him all the way to the try line. And when you see that kind of commitment, Matty's changed my wording, but that's what I wrote. What I did like, though, is at least 3 to 4 Rabbitohs chased him all the way to the end. After seeing this, I believe Rabbitohs will win today. That's what I wrote anyway. But yeah, so seeing that, I was like, I think the Rabbitohs are going to win it on pure desperation, because very rarely, like even Cody Walker turned around and chased that. He was no chance of catching.
Yeah.
Who was it? Madison? No, Hastings?
Kapoa.
He was no chance, but he chased anyway, and that's a good indication of a player's commitment to the game. So, look, I think Murray was massive for them. I think Nico was massive for him. Mark Nichols, sorry. I thought he was really important for them.
Havili?
Yeah, Havili was great.
Great knock.
So, really disappointing, because I think like the second half, we saw the old Tigers come back again, where they just kind of lost their grit and determination. Rabbitohs second half, I thought they were really good. You look at their backs, Jackson Polo, 182 metres, Campbell Graham, 169 with 3 try assists. Alex Johnston obviously breaking the record. So Rabbitohs, I thought that second half they can take a ton of confidence out of it. Thomas Burgess was outstanding, 235 metres. Cam Murray, he locks that middle up, 26 tackles, 0 misses. Jai Arrow, good knock, 37 tackles, 0 misses. I think the Rabbitohs can build off this. I really do.
Yeah, we mentioned it before, just AJ. he's 27 years old. He broke Nathan Merritt's record. Merritt scored 146 tries in 218 games. AJ's done it in 178 games. So he's done it in 40 less games. You need to consider as well, Nathan Merritt, obviously his team was battling for a spoon a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But he seriously is chasing that Ken Irvine record. He should realistically get there.
Yeah. I mean, I think he needs to average like 15
his
tries a year.
biggest thing is staying in the NRL, which sounds crazy, but the Rabbitohs were close to letting him go 18 months ago, which is crazy. But it's going to be interesting to see how Sydney, obviously, before he breaks this record, Cody Walker's going to retire, Damien Cook's going to retire. So it is going to be interesting for AJ how it plays out, but he's well within grasp of getting it. And at the moment, he's scored 11 in 12 games. He's on track to have a top 3 season he's ever had.
Yeah, incredible. So Rabbitohs, a lot to build off in that. And Cody Walker grabbing a couple of tries, I think that's going to do a world of wonder for his confidence and just get him back enjoying footy. And again, him chasing that intercept when he had no right to catch him and he didn't, it just shows you he's committed, he wants to be there, and I like seeing it. And that's when I knew, even though the Rabbitohs were 10-0 down, they were going to win because they're committed, they're ready to go.
Thought it was a big bounce back from Ilias too. He threw that intercept, which had rattled most. He then missed the tackle the next set, which let him go through. Then I think he missed the tackle on the line too. So the first 10 minutes was a nightmare for Ilias.
Yeah.
And with Blake Taaffe sitting on the bench, a guy that could have come on, I thought he did really well to regather himself.
Thoughts on Cody Nikorima at fullback?
Didn't like it.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
I just think
I love Nikorima in the team, but that's not his position.
I just think that stick with Taaffe. He's there. He's a younger player. I like Cody Nikorima at 14, but anyway, they got the win, so must have done something right. Just quickly on Latrell, I think Latrell is sitting there angry at the boys are struggling and he can't get out there and help them. Watching him train, I think sending him away was the best thing they could have done. Get him out of Australia, out of his comfort zone, and his sole focus is to get fit and ready to play footy. And this is just speculation, but I think Latrell's sitting there watching Selwyn Cobbo become a superstar, and Troll's going, hang on a sec. Latrell's competitive. And we have to remember, Latrell was the one that went at Will Chambers in Origin and said, you're the big dog. I'm coming at you.
Yep.
And so I think Troll's sitting back going, look, Selwyn Cobbo, super stoked for him. Love that he's killing it. But he's still only 23 years old, which is mental. And I think he's sitting there going, I'm going to remind people that I'm a superstar and I'm the big dog.
Mate, I posted something the other day on my Instagram, and one of the comments from just a random bloke was saying, the coach sucks, they're going to miss the 8. Latrell clapped back at it and stood up for the coach and the team, and I just sort of thought, and then I checked the time in San Fran, the middle of the night.
Fuck.
Mate, I reckon he is going to come on a tear when he comes back.
Yeah. And he basically said, we'll see in a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll see, mate. Yeah.
Which I love to see.
I love that.
So I think Trell's going to come back and kill it. He looks trim, he looks fit, he looks happy, and I think that he's sitting back going, feeling like, I could have been really helping these boys win a couple extra games here. So I think he's going to come back for a huge play. Tigers, are we concerned at all?
I feel like they've been unlucky the last few weeks, but there's no hiding away that performance was very disappointing.
Yeah.
That was very un-Tigers based on the team we've got to know over the last few weeks. Coming into a bye, that's even worse. I think their game coming out of that bye will be very telling as to where this club is
really at. Yeah, all the other losses in the last month have been losses you can be like, yeah, we just weren't the better side, but we had a dig. This loss, they kind of went away from what they'd built so much over the last 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
So really disappointing. And the game coming back from the bye is going to be really telling as to where they are.
Shout out to Dane Laurie.
Mate, he's so
What a
good.
difference.
He makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Such a big difference. I thought he was outstanding, and he just helped their forwards, and not just their forwards, but just the link man. Like, he's just constantly dangerous. His ball playing is good. He was... It's disappointing because he played so well, but especially in that first half and that second half. Anyway, Sharks, Roosters. Are the Roosters back?
I hope so. The thing that worries me is that they played so well. They look so good. Teddy's about to go to... Like we spoke about this before. Teddy goes to Origin. Radley will come back in 8 weeks. So getting that continuity, it's an awkward time to all of a sudden seemingly click.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, mate, to go to Shark Park and do that, most teams go to Shark Park and just play reserve grade football all of a sudden. They went there and somehow got better. So I'll take a lot of confidence out of it. We spoke about it before. Angus is going to be pissed off. Sawali's going to be better for it. So I wouldn't say they're back, but they're definitely heading in the right direction.
I think, earlier in this year I said I feel like they'll make a run later in the year. I I'm not like 100% locked in that they will, but I think signs are pointing towards things are starting to click. They've gone out and dushed up the Sharkies, who like pretty much didn't really look in that game for most of it, which is a really impressive feat. So I think that they're finding their feet, the Roosters. They're finally finding what they are as a team. You know, I thought Kiri had one of his better games. Tupu was outstanding. Suwali, in one of his tackles on Kennedy to keep him in goal, was incredible. I think teams need to be worried about Roosters.
Big game this weekend, Chooks, Canberra.
Massive game.
Canberra obviously missing Jack, but I think Canberra will be more confident than they ever have been before they can win without Jack over the last few weeks.
Yeah, agreed. Sharkies. I think this was a real reality check for the Sharkies.
Yep.
Not reality check, because that sounds like they thought they were better than they are. Just a reminder of how tough this competition is.
Yeah, I feel like the last few weeks they played 3 games in 11 days. They had the flu. This happened, that happened. There was no excuse here. They were at home against the Roosters. No excuse. And apart from 15 minutes of good footy, they really did get slapped around in this game.
A few shining lights. I thought Mulatalo was outstanding.
Yep.
Outstanding, and I think he's been really good this year. Cam McInnes worked his ass off. Yeah, look, they just looked a bit tired, if I'm being honest. They just didn't have that energy that they started the year with. I think they're really missing Dale Finucane. I think the energy that he brings to them is just massive. Like, he needs to be in that squad. So, although it's not like, warning signs, the problem is this top 8 is becoming so congested. Sharkies are 7th now.
Yep.
So they've gone from potential top 4 side and potential threat to the premiership to, if they go on a bad run, they drop out of the 8.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, they have their bye this weekend, which might come at the perfect time.
Yeah, I think they need it. I think the bye this week for the Sharkies is exactly what they need. I just think that the incredible start, the flu, the 3 games, 11 days, the travel, just all caught up to them.
Yeah. And obviously it looks like Nico Hines, he will be that 18th man, so they won't get him back during this origin period all that much. So that makes life
very hard,
even more difficult.
Because we saw what kind of team they are when he's not playing in the halves. So huge month of footy. I mean, season defining for them.
Definitely.
Season defining. Yep. So interesting. Now, Bulldogs, Dragons. Yeah, look, not the best.
Tough watch.
Yeah, tough watch, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Dragons got the job done, though, so good on them. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I thought well done to Matt Duffy. I thought he had a shocker last. I personally thought he was going to get dropped. I thought he was great in this game against the Dragons.
But isn't that the problem, though?
Oh, mate, 100% it's a problem. But
out.
I'm not going to bag the guy for having a good game. You know, like, credit to him. He came out off a shocker and had a good game. His response was good. Will he do it next week? God knows. History tells us no. But credit to him. He came out and played well in that game. If Duffy wasn't on the field, it was probably going to be 30-0, I think.
Yeah, tough.
He was the one light in that side. I thought their middles were good. Thompson, Vaughan, King, they went hard. I just lack points, Canterbury.
Well, yeah, their defence, though, their goal line defence, they never really put up any resistance on their goal line. I just think that not that much was being thrown at them. Like the Blake Laurie try, even though I was stoked for the bloke, absolutely stoked. First try, 91 games in the NRL, was pretty, it was just a pass from the hooker.
Yeah. As was Ben Hunt's try.
Yeah.
I thought the fullback, credit to him, Ramsey. I thought he was solid once again.
Yeah, another good game.
Performance, he was good.
Got to give hook raps there because he seems to have made the right decision. Now, obviously, it's a long season. The interesting thing is, like, the Doggies actually had more line breaks than the Dragons. So their attack wasn't too bad.
I feel like in the modern game, when you get these games when neither team plays overly well, I feel like stats,
very
you
hard.
almost throw them out the window. Like that missed tackle stat you had for me before. Like, I'm finding more and more missed tackles do not make sense in the modern game.
Well, Warriors only missed 12 tackles.
Yeah, that's like they defended awfully.
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting that sometimes
probably save a missed tackle because they're not scrambling at all, so there aren't more guys missing.
True. Yeah, look, it's you're right. Like, if you scramble and you get stepped on the inside, it's a missed tackle, but at least you're scrambling. So Bulldogs, look, I think unfortunately, fellas and ladies, it's just going to be a long year for the Doggies. It's going to get worse maybe before it gets better, because now I kind of watch them. I'm like, that early season hope, it's kind of gone now. It's like, fuck, okay, even though we recruited really well,
there's nothing more to wait for.
Yeah.
You're not going, oh, but this guy could do. They are who they are.
Yeah, which is tough, man. I feel sorry for them. Dragons, thoughts?
Yeah, Dragons is a game that they should have won. I think they weren't great, realistically. But
I just think they did well to get the win.
Yeah, this is a game they
fight.
had to win.
Yeah.
There was no. I'm not going to praise them for winning it, but if they would have lost it, I would have been pretty disappointed.
Yeah,
but if the
for
Dragons want to be a top 8 team, you should beat Canterbury.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And look, the really positive thing for the Dragons and Dragons fans is they're 9th now. So they've put themselves in a position to challenge for the 8 position. The worry is, though, the draw they've got coming up.
Without Ben Hunt, he'll be playing Origin.
Yeah. They play... Can you get their draw coming up? Play North. They've got a bye. Then they play North Queensland. And the Dragons, they had a really tough start to the year draw-wise. Then they've had a bit of a softer one recently. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so it goes Cowboys after the bye. Cowboys, South, Raiders, Broncos, Roosters, Manly, Cowboys, Sharks, Raiders.
Yeah. So, look, end of the year, you've only got, 2 games there that is a team below them at the moment?
Yeah, and that
Which
that
is...
you got Manly and 2 games against Canberra.
So you got Canberra and Manly, but Manly is still a genuine...
Out of all the teams below them, they're the last 2 I want to play.
Exactly, exactly. So it's a tough run for the Dragons, but at least they've put themselves... In my opinion, if they play finals footy, a massive win for the club.
Yes.
Massive win for the club. Onto the... Apologies that we're rushing through this, guys, but it's just the Origin chat just, way too long. We will make sure to make it up to you when there's not as much Origin chat. Or maybe we could consider sitting down and separating or something. Anyway, apologies that we're rushing through this. Raiders versus Eels. Thoughts on this match?
Well, this is one of the better games of the week, if not the game of the week. Thought Dill Brown and Moses, they were sensational. I love that play that Moses, he got it down the right edge, he turned it inside to Accor, I think it was, and Hudson Young smashed him, put him on the deck, and he stood back up, and in the same play, he got the ball back and set it up down the right side. I thought that was and then he kicked a cracking goal from the sideline on that one too. Dill Brown, some of the stuff he was doing, he's so fucking tough, isn't he?
Bro.
He's just so hard to
He's
handle.
so good.
Yeah. I thought Bailey Simonson returning down there, that's probably the game of his career.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. He was outstanding. He was so good. So good. I want to give a shout out to Tarpane, though. Tarpane is a beast. He's so dangerous. He constantly offloads. He had 3 offloads. Every time he runs the ball, he's either going to step you, bump you, offload you. And for me personally, he's fast becoming one of the better front rowers. And I think because he's down in Canberra, you're not really seeing it. But, mate, he's so good. 234 metres, 108 post contact, 31 tackles, 0 misses against one of the best forward packs in the competition in the Eels.
Yep. And this weekend, without Josh Papali, he takes on Rhea Hargraves and the Chooks.
And I guarantee you,
Cannot wait for it.
He doesn't take a step back.
Yep. He's going to go all in.
I've got such big raps on Tarpane, and I just think that he is hitting the prime years of his career.
Yeah.
The prime years of his career. I think Josh Papali has been playing some really good footy the last few weeks. Honestly, I think, although the Raiders lost, I think that Raiders fans should be stoked with this. This is a para-Eels team that was very... they didn't play poorly at all. They were there to get the job done.
Yep.
And the Raiders took it to them. And I said it a few weeks ago, but I do believe that the Raiders may be able to turn it around. And that last few wins that they've had may be the turnaround point for them. And I think, honestly, right now, if I had to say it, I would say the Raiders are more likely to play finals footy than the Dragons or the Sea Eagles right now, in my opinion.
I think that's fair. I just still find it so hard to trust this side.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's coming together.
If we're sitting here in 3 weeks' time, we're like, oh, okay, the Raiders are shit again. I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
and I'm willing...
But based on what we've seen the last few weeks, I agree with you. They should be. I thought it was interesting. Played Wolford for 55 minutes, Starling for about 25.
Yeah.
I thought that was odd. I constantly feel like I'm missing something with Starling.
Yeah. I think maybe just he's an explosive running hooker, but sometimes maybe with the game plan that he may be not suited to what they're trying to get done there.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's so different to Hodgson. Such a different player. Whereas Wolford seems like a very...
He's a more
typical
stock
9.
standard 9.
A typical 9, and maybe that's what Ricky wants to work with, the typical 9. But you're right, though. It's interesting because at one period, they were basically saying, Hodgson, see you later, and Starling's our guy.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 6 months, it's Starling can barely get some minutes, which is hard because if you're a player, give me a chance to slowly put that to keep that jersey. But Starling has had a fair whack at it. Unless I'm misremembering, he hasn't had a fair whack at it to get that jersey.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not.
Saying that, thinking about it, like, has he really started that many games and been given?
No,
60s?
Ricky Stewart doesn't trust him to start games. That's the problem.
So it's kind of like,
has he playing Frawley as a hooker a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
Then Adam Elliott. Now it's Wolford, who they plucked out of obscurity.
That's a good point.
Like I feel like, and I agree with you. Hodgson isn't our guy. It's Starling, but it's never really been like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He's never been going, here's 10 games, you starting hooker.
How do you make a starting hooker into a starting hooker? You start them.
Start him.
His biggest streak starting hooker is 5 games.
Okay. And when was that?
That was back in
That's when Hodgson did his ACL.
2021 April. So over a year
So this
ago.
year really hasn't. Like, because this year was supposed to be the year that he took over from Hodgson.
Yeah.
Interesting. Tough by Starling, because, like, you got to give him a chance to become the starting hooker.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Fogarty's return?
Yeah, I think it was good. He'll work his way into it, but I thought he provided a bit of stability that they needed.
First game back.
Not going
to be a
it's going
world
to take
beater.
time. I thought, and obviously he's a young guy. He's super confident. This Savage. I thought there was a good little moment for him where he got the ball in the 39th minute. He was coming out of his own end and he held it like a tennis ball, and the ball got knocked out of his hand. And I reckon he went into the second half, and Ricky Stewart would have just got Parramatta should have scored on the end of that set. Papali'i just missed the mark, and I think he would have gone in at halftime, and Ricky would have said to him, "Hey, hold the ball fucking properly." Coming out.
See,
of your own end.
that's where overconfidence is not good in a young player.
Yep.
It's like, mate, you have not earned the right.
Yep. You're not Billy.
Billy Slater. And when Billy didn't do that when he was a rookie.
Yep.
He did it when he was bloody the best fullback in the game. And so little things like that, it's just unnecessary. Like, it doesn't help you at all. All it does is increase the likelihood that you're going to get it knocked out of your hands.
But he's lucky that he learnt that lesson and it didn't cost them.
Yeah, for sure.
If Parramatta would have scored, which they should have, they had the overlap. That would have been dire straits for Savage, I think.
Kotrick, I think Kotrick's last 2 weeks have been actually really, really good. I think he's improving week in, week out, and we're starting to see him get back to that form that we saw a few years ago. Outside of that, Adam Elliott running for 130 metres.
Sean Lane was good.
Lane was good, but so Raiders, I think you're building nicely. I really do, even though you didn't get the win. To the Eels, Papali'i, again, massive. Lane was really good on the edge there. That line that he ran was a beautiful line. Dylan Brown wrapping around. But Dylan Brown, he had 3 line breaks, 2 tries. He was creating something out of literally nothing.
Nothing.
Like, nothing was on, and he would just it's like he had butter all over him. They'd just slip straight off him. He'd go straight through. Mate, he is something special. And some of his defenses is so strong. He very rarely falls off a tackle. Very rarely.
Yeah, and I won't harp on about it, but I'm so glad that other people are seeing what we spoke about all last year.
Yeah, for sure. He's really showing what he can be.
Yep.
Marnie gets through 59 tackles. Junior Bolo, 153 metres, 24 tackles, 0 misses. So Eels going down to Canberra and getting the win is never easy. And especially with the Raiders, it seems to be getting it together. Eels looks like they've done it. Not looks like they've done it. They did it. But it looks like the Eels, that's a game that the Eels would normally lose.
Yep.
So it looks like they're starting to get that message on board of like, boys, we can't afford to be week 1 good, week 2 not good, week 4, all that kind of stuff. Yep. So look, great win for the Eels.
And that's the thing, like, they don't have to win these games by 40, but they have to win them.
Absolutely.
I don't care how you win them, just win them.
Yep.
You're good enough.
Easily.
You should be winning these.
Ryan Madison ran for 179 metres, 78 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, and 38 tackles, and only 1 miss in 55 minutes.
He's a weapon.
He's a weapon. Going to be hard for I wonder if the Eels, do you reckon the Eels keep him?
Be stupid not to.
I mean, surely they got the cash to keep him.
He's the sort of guy this year that could go from bench to Parramatta to bench for New South Wales to bench for the Kangaroos.
Yeah, that's how good he's going. He really is. Look, great win for the Eels. I think both teams can take a lot out of that. That is us for the day. Again, apologies for the condensed review, but it was just the Origin stuff, too much stuff to get through. But we will make it up to you. Don't worry about that. We will be live, Game 1, Locker Room Hotel. Be there or be square. It's going to be a huge night. Myself, Gurino, Timmy, Hello Sport. Also, we've got shirts at bloke.shop if you want some merch. On top of that, we are in every single Bottle-O celebrations, IJ Liquor Plus, Porter's Liquor in New South Wales ACT, in Bottle-O for the next 2 weeks, $52 in New South Wales. Go to blokeandabar.com. We've got a store locator there. You put in your postcode. It shows your nearest stockist. Anything else, Guru?
Yeah, Beers and Break-Evens back this week. We'll be dropping Wednesday around lunchtime. Timmy's away, so I'll have another guest host coming on. So if you're a Supercoach player, come and join us.
Well, see you there. And as usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.